Chapter 406 Triple Breakthrough. Would they appreciate eternity like him, or would they curse it? He stared at the flower. A screen, detailed in spect, appeared before his eyes. It was a sub-skill of the Sphinx's blessing. Everwhich Violet rank. Effect. Heals all injuries, ailments, and negative status upon consumption. Additionally, the legends have it that anybody who consumes this flower will become immortal. Neo clenched his jaw. Should he use it on Elizabeth? Can I find a powerful healer in this world? Neo asked Ava. No, Ava replied bluntly. Almost everyone here is a darkness user. No one has life in holy elements. As for the ones who do, they aren't above expert mastery, just like other element users. Something about her words was off. However, Neo was focused on something else. A flower that grants immortality. Why didn't I realize it can be a curse to others? He finally understood why life had been so vehement about not helping him. Logically, life should have helped him, since healing others was in its basic nature. But it hadn't done that. The reason was that it knew immortality can be a curse. It must be why life doesn't see death as an enemy. Because death helps everyone to pass on. It does that before living can become a curse for them. Neo's thoughts continued to churn. What about asking for a Grim Reaper's help? In Tartarus, its world of the living and underworld were one and the same. Earth's Grim Reapers should be able to exert influence here, unlike Earth where they couldn't act in the world of the living. Neo held his Grim Reaper badge. It didn't work. Without being able to open the portal to the underworld, he couldn't ask Grim Reapers to help. Damn it, he murmured. The only way left out is the executioners. Percival had holy affinity, and Olivia had life. The problem is Percival. He is far too weak to purify Elizabeth's corruption. In the first place, would they even help me? Neo doubted it. Elizabeth, for better or worse, was an enemy for most, if not all, exalted on Luminara. A plan started to form in Neo's mind. He went over it repeatedly. It should work. In theory, at least. If everything works out, I should be able to save Elizabeth without using the flower. If not, only 19 days remained until the timer to save Elizabeth ended. Neo had to make his choices fast. Neo, Ava said when he remained silent for a bit too long. Sorry. I was focused on my bloodlines, he said. Can I get a free space? I need to make a breakthrough. He wasn't lying. Empathic Transcend had reached a whopping 100% after his last stunt, and Crownless King was at 40%. Training until he reached the edge of death always had its advantage. This was without fusing the bloodline fragments into Mind Invasion, which was the bloodline of Empathic Transcend. Breakthrough. Yes, the incident with the elementals helped me reach the limit. Come with me. For a moment, Ava thought about letting him break through where they stood, but she decided against it. The pond wouldn't provide any benefits to Neo's breakthrough, and it would be rude to her ancestors if he did that here. She took him to another mountain, this one much larger. Its peak was shrouded in mist, and the air carried the faint scent of damp earth and ancient presence. A powerful barrier surrounded it, shimmering faintly under the sky. I used this place mostly for training. It should be enough to contain the aftermath of your breakthrough, Ava said, her voice steady as she gestured toward the rugged terrain. Neo nodded, stepping forward before settling onto the ground in a cross-legged position. He took a deep breath, closing his eyes as he focused inward. The world energy within his body began to churn. It surged through his veins. A faint hum filled the air, and then, white flames materialized around him. The flames flickered wildly, casting ghostly shadows across the rocky landscape. The air trembled. The ground beneath him cracked, sending fine fissure spider webbing outward. Trees groaned in protest as the force of his aura sent powerful shockwaves rolling through the valley. A flock of birds erupted from the trees in a panicked frenzy as they tried to run away, their cries drowned out by the growing storm of energy. Then, all at once, his presence underwent a terrifying transformation. It expanded violently, slamming against the barrier like an unrelenting tidal wave. Empathic Transcendence, Grade 5 Right-Pointing Arrow Grade 4. Crownless King, Grade 5, Progress, 40% Right-Pointing Arrow 70%. Neo had grown considerably stronger, but he didn't stop there. Fuse the bloodlines. A sudden pulse surged through his body as his Monarch of Death bloodline bubbled with energy. The power condensed, flowing through his veins before merging into the depths of his Mind Invasion bloodline. A flood of knowledge and understanding surged through his mind. Empathic Transcendence, Grade 4, Progress, 0% Right-Pointing Arrow 100%. Crownless King, Grade 5, Progress, 70% right pointing arrow 100%. Ava had thought Neo had completed his breakthrough. It surprised her that this amount of energy was released from someone who was a paragon. She had barely taken a breath when Neo's presence swelled once more, this time, 1,000 times stronger. A look of shock appeared in her eyes. The cracks in the mountain's barrier spread like shattered glass. The land beneath them heaved, splitting apart as the mountain trembled violently, its foundation quaking under the sheer force of his growing presence. Neo's body evolved. His muscles condensed, packed with a density rivaling the core of a collapsing star. The power within him brimmed with potential, each fiber of his being capable of shattering worlds with a single strike. A portion of his scars disappeared. His appearance improved. His bones, now infused with endless world energy, resonated with power beyond comprehension. And then, with one final, shattering pulse, the barrier surrounding the mountain collapsed. The explosion of energy sent debris flying, carving deep trenches into the land. Neo exhaled, his breath misting in the cool night air. He stood, his figure silhouetted against the backdrop of a sky now shimmering with residual energy. His breakthrough was complete. Chapter 407 Training in Easy Mode Lie. He jumped to his feet. His body felt light and much more powerful. His control had improved drastically. At the same time, his senses range had reached unprecedented heights. If Neo focused, he could sense the blades of grass as far as thousands of kilometers. He noticed Ava staring at him stiffly. Is something wrong? She looked at the barrier that shouldn't have been broken by even early exalted, then back to Neo. Swallowing her doubts, she shook her head. Let's return. Neo nodded. He used water and darkness to clean the filth that had been released by his body during the breakthrough and followed after Ava. I'm sorry about the barrier. I didn't think it would break. Don't worry about it. It has a self-restoration function. Ava felt relieved that she hadn't told Neo to break through at the Yasugori pond. Had she done that, the pond might have disappeared by now. They reached the home in a few hours. The journey could have been much shorter. However, they took their time, as according to Ava, there were powerful monsters lurking in the forest, and attracting their attention was dangerous. Kane was at the porch. He was waiting for them, half worried, half expectant. Good job, he said, sensing the endless power emanating from Neo. You should be able to fight a weak. Grade 3 exalted now. As that's so. Neo smiled bitterly. Kane's words smashed the delusion of invincibility he was feeling. On the other hand, Ava was petrified. Neo had jumped from being able to fight grade 5 grade 4 exalted to grade 3 exalted in a single day. According to her master, Neo was a paragon. It made no sense how a single breakthrough of his could rival the breakthroughs of exalted. Come inside. I've prepared lunch. The others should be here in a few minutes too. 4 hours earlier Olivia and Nicholas surveyed the forest. They guarded the perimeter with utmost vigilance, making sure Percival's breakthrough was not interrupted. What are you planning to do? Nicholas suddenly asked. Olivia was surprised. It was rare for Nicholas to initiate a conversation. About what? The boy. Nicholas kept his eyes on the surroundings as he opened his mouth. If he became an executioner, it's sufficient to say Sphinx made him an offer he couldn't refuse. It's likely that it was to save the tyrant who was injured during the attack on the Temple of Void. Even if the offer wasn't about it, the boy must be trying to save the tyrant, Nicholas said. I'm not going to do anything, Olivia replied bluntly. Why? He is the prince of the underworld, and my daughter is there. The reapers of death are impartial. Even if the boy wants to harm you, he cannot do anything against your daughter. I would rather not take risks. All their knowledge about the underworld came from rumors, myths, and claims of the Temple of Death. It was said the angels of death were impartial, but was it really true? Olivia had too much on the line to take the gamble. Good to know that, Nicholas said curtly, eliciting a surprise from Olivia. You are okay with that. I thought you would want to eliminate Neo, especially because of his bloodline. I'm not young anymore. I would rather not fight if I can. Nicholas shook his head and stepped away from Olivia. I can sense a powerful monster coming for Percival from that direction. I will go look into it. Before he could take another step, Olivia asked again. Will you really not attack Neo? I won't. Even if I wanted to, I can't do it. The dragon protecting him is beyond what these old bones can handle. Present. The group ate dinner. Percival and his group returned late. They had encountered a powerful grade 3 exalted rank monster, which took them time to subdue. After dinner, they sat on the porch. I'm a paragon now. So, when can we start the training? Percival asked eagerly. From the morning, Kane replied with a wave of his hand. The birds don't wake up until the sun rises. Quote ellipsis question mark quote. His cryptic words confused the group. However, they kept their silence. They would know tomorrow what Cain was talking about. There was no need for haste. Instead of sleeping, Neo meditated. He created essence and learned the concealment spell Cain had given him. It was not hard to learn. However, learning it by the time he met the grand expedition would be a challenge. The morning came quickly. As the first light of dawn touched the forest, Cain led Neo and Percival through the trees. The air was cool, and the ground was covered in fallen leaves. Birds chirped in the distance, and a soft breeze rustled the branches. After traveling for hours, they stopped in front of a long fence that stretched far in both directions. A large wooden sign was nailed to the entrance. Do not cross the fence unless you can outrun the ostriches. Neo and Percival stared at the sign. Ostrich? Percival asked, confused. You guys have those here? Yeah, Cain replied simply. What is this place? A farm, Cain said. Each side of the fence is 1.5 kilometers long. There's a single golden apple tree in the middle of the farm. That tree is why I created this farm. Just one tree. Golden apples are rare and hard to grow. Having even one tree that bears fruits is extremely lucky as is. Percival nodded, looking a little unsure. He had heard many terrifying stories about the first executioner, but the man standing before him seemed surprisingly normal. Neo, however, wasn't paying attention to the conversation. His eyes scanned the farm. Something felt strange. What's our goal here? He asked. Bring me a golden apple. One each. I want to make an apple tart. Cain smirked. That's our training. Yeah, Cain shrugged. Pretty easy, right? I used to send Ava to do it for me. Neo turned his gaze to the farm. The tree was only 1.5 kilometers away, combining the distance they need to cover in total. For someone like them, who could cross over 100 kilometers in a single step, this task was easy. Too easy. I have a bad feeling about this, Neo thought. Chapter 408 Prison. Percival, either too confident or too eager, grinned and cracked his neck. So if I pluck the apple and bring it back, you'll admit I'm strong enough to join the expedition? Yes, I would acknowledge you. Cain nodded. And if I bring it back before Neo? Percival questioned. You get a bigger slice of the tart. If that tart is as special as it sounds, I'd love a big portion. Percival laughed. Neo remained silent, still staring at the farm. He entered the farm with a jump over the fence. His body blurred as he shot forward at breakneck speed. He covered half of the distance in an instant. Neo blinked, and everything had changed. Percival's body was rolling through the farm. A hole had been shot open in his head, and his eyes were lifeless. What? Percival was dead. Neo had not seen what or how killed him, but Percival was deader than dead. Who? It's been a long time since I saw a knockout that bad. He should have started at full power instead of trying to test the water with his Paragon rank speed, Cain chuckled. Isn't it a problem that he is dead? Neo questioned. It's not. Not here at least. This place is Tartarus. A prison, if you have forgotten, Cain said. Look closely towards his corpse. You should be able to see it with your mastery of death. Neo wanted to point out he was blind. He couldn't see. But he guessed it wasn't the time for jokes, and did as he was told. It was easy to notice what Cain was trying to show him. Percival's soul floated above his corpse. How did I die? The soul muttered, shocked. I might have forgotten to mention it, but the ostriches here are fast, and they love brain juice, Cain said from the side. And no, you aren't dead. Wait for a few minutes. Percival was stunned beyond measure. It took him a moment to realize that they were currently under the rules of Tartarus, not Earth. Here, the world of the living and the dead were the same. Since the body died, the soul remained behind. Percival's surprise only increased when his previous body disintegrated and disappeared, and he gained a new body. His organs materialized out of thin air, his muscles regrew along with his bones, and he regained his hair and skin. It took out a lot of his divine energy. But, I'm alive. Instead of being happy or thrilled, Percival was confused. No, you aren't alive. You are dead. You just got a new body. Every time you die here in Tartarus, the same will happen. So everyone here is immortal. Technically, yes. You are immortal until you become an immortal monster, your soul dies, or a darkness devourer gets you. The last two scenarios were easy to understand. They would die truly if their soul died, and a darkness user could devour their souls, which would result in the same. Something like this was true as the seed of existence was often linked with the soul. Destruction of soul was near irreversible, and led to destruction of the seed of existence. Neo was an exception. He could easily regenerate his soul from scratch. Now that you guys know you can't die, get to it. Neo felt there was a lot Kane was not telling them yet. However, he decided to wait for it. If Kane was holding information, it was probably for a reason. How do I get back to the starting point? Percival asked. Or should I start moving towards the tree from here itself? The ostriches won't attack you if you walk. They only attack when they see something not similar to them, and it's moving fast. And if you want, you can resume your run from there itself. Percival was no longer smiling. He looked towards the tree that was only 500 meters away. Shaking his head, he returned to the fence where Neo and Kane stood. Why did you come back? No point in training if I cheat like that. In other words, he wouldn't feel satisfied. Neo entered the farm and stretched. How fast are those things? He asked. Around as fast as a mid or high grade 2 exalted. If you guys can outrun them, then you won't have any trouble escaping if you encounter an enemy that's out of your league. Grade 2. Neo wondered if he had misheard. The gap between each grade in the exalted rank was gigantic. The chasm was so big that a lower rank grade could never hope to defeat a higher rank grade. This training would also help in building your stamina. So do your best, Kane spoke, as if he had not just told them to outpace enemies that were way beyond their current limits. The training was absurd, borderline madness. Pitting them against monsters who were as fast as grade 2 exalted was too much. But they had to participate in the grand expedition. If they couldn't survive this, they would be the first to die in the abyss of nightmares. Neo used shadow jump to move. He moved only a few hundred meters when something stomped on the shadow he was moving through. A powerful pulse drilled into his head, disorienting him. It caused him to cancel his spell involuntarily. Suddenly, he felt a sense of danger. Alarms rang in his mind. It was soon followed by a stab to his head. Although he had sensed it beforehand, the attack had been too quick, and he couldn't react on time. Much to Percival and Kane's surprise. It was nothing for Neo. He continued to run. Even if he can use death to delay dying, there should be a slight delay in movements, Kane thought. Looks like he is used to dying a lot of times. He laughed. There are a lot of people who can do something like that here. If the training could be done just by doing that, I wouldn't have chosen it. Chapter 409 Infinite Mana. Neo activated his blessing. His speed increased sharply, and his injuries began to heal. He shot forward like a bullet. The world blurred around him. The distant rustling of leaves and the chirping of the birds faded into the background. Just as he took a step, something struck his shin. He tripped, his momentum betraying him, and fell face first into the ground. The impact sent a jolt of pain through his body as dust and loose dirt scattered into the air. Fweet, fweet, fweet. Neo groaned, pushing himself up, only to find an ostrich towering over him. The oversized bird stood there, its beady eyes gleaming with what could only be amusement. Neo blinked, baffled. Short head, long neck, shaggy feathers, two-toed feet with sharp claws. It looked like an actual ostrich. If Neo hadn't been tripped and killed by them before, he would have thought these were just normal ostriches. But, fweet, fweet, is it just me, or is this bird brain laughing at me? The ostrich stamped its feet, unmistakably taunting. Its beak curled slightly in what could only be described as a smirk, an irritating, smug smirk. After one last mocking call, the bird took a step and disappeared in a blink. Neo sat up straight, his hands digging into the dirt as he turned to look at Percival and Kane. Kane had a knowing smile. He had expected this. Percival, on the other hand, was doubled over, clutching his stomach as he laughed uncontrollably. Neo stood up, dusting himself off. His gaze shifted to the tree he had been aiming for, but the fruit no longer interested him. His main goal changed. He would bash the face of that bird brain first, then take the apple. Why the fuck are you laughing? I never thought I'd see someone getting trolled by a bird. Percival wheezed, barely containing his amusement. You got killed by it. At least I could move, unlike you. Percival shrugged, as if saying getting killed was still better than being humiliated. Ha! This is fun. Percival finally calmed down, setting his massive hammer down and rolling his shoulders. But I'd rather not die again. So, I'll finish it now. He took a step forward. Come, sunshine. A second sun materialized in the sky, blazing brilliantly above them. The temperature spiked, and waves of heat rippled through the air. Basking in divine light, Percival's aura flared, surging in intensity. Golden flames erupted around him. His muscles tensed, and veins glowed faintly beneath his skin with golden hue. A slight, Almost imperceptible shift occurred in his gaze, his irises burning with newfound strength. The blessing of Apollo. Might, Neo thought. Percival had effectively reached the strength of a grade 3 exalted. Without hesitation, he bolted towards the tree. The air exploded around him, shockwaves rippling outward, and he left a blazing trail of golden fire behind him. Neo raised a brow at the sheer speed when Percival's body jerked violently. His momentum cut off instantly, and he collapsed like a puppet with its strings severed. A hole had been drilled clean through his head. He was dead. Seriously. His soul hovered over his lifeless body, staring at the corpse incredulously. I couldn't even react in time. Apollo's blessing was the strongest in terms of raw power. To die so easily after activating it came as a shock. The golden flames that had once surrounded him were now extinguished, leaving only the scorched ground. Percival's thoughts were interrupted when he noticed Neo's faint smile. His lips twitched. I died because I was careless. Sure. His body disintegrated, turning to dust before vanishing entirely. A moment later, a new body materialized around his soul, whole and unscathed. He exhaled and walked back to the starting point. Your turn, Percival said, rolling his shoulders. You two might want to work together on this one, Kane suddenly interjected with a hint of amusement. Those birds aren't easy to defeat. I can do it myself. I don't need the help of others. Percival and Neo glanced at each other as their words overlapped. Kane frowned but said nothing. Then, after a brief pause, Percival spoke. The training is for us to participate in the grand expedition. I know teamwork is important, but we will fall short if we are too weak individually. Kane alternated his gaze between Neo and Percival before sighing. Do as you wish. But keep in mind, you only have 5 days. He flicked his wrist, and out of nowhere, a wooden chair appeared. He sat down leisurely, smirking. I would recommend teamwork, but solo is also fine. No reason for me to refuse something that gets me a good laugh. Percival's lips twitched at the blatant insult. Neo, however, focused on something else entirely. Where did that chair come from? His brows furrowed. The more he thought about it, the more questions arose. Now that I think about it, Kane appeared out of nowhere when I met him. How did he do that? Kane doesn't have space affinity. He shouldn't be able to manipulate space since he lacks the spatial perception that space affinity users have. If he tries to manipulate space, he should fall through dimensions like I did. Neo recalled Kane mentioning the pseudo gap. The pseudo gap must be how he can do that. This could be the key to completing his training. While Neo was lost in thought, Percival had begun his attempts already. Again and again, he charged forward. Again and again, he was killed. Each time, his body dissolved and reformed at the starting point. The cycle repeated without pause. I should start as well, Neo muttered. He triggered the Artemis blessing. A surge of power coursed through him as his control over the dark type element increased. Then, he used his own blessing. His strength, elemental control, and elemental power shot through the roof. The ground beneath his feet cracked slightly, unable to withstand the sudden spike in pressure. Using 2 buff-type blessings was incredibly draining on his world energy reserves, and it put a heavy strain on his body. A sharp, internal ache was spreading through his muscles. Neo didn't care. He activated Infinite Mana, another buff from the moon's blessing, to work as the source of energy for the 2 skills gained from his blessings. Chapter 410 Hateful Birds. It helped his not waste his own world energy reserves. Thanks to Infinite Mana, he could use both buffs infinitely without worrying about running out of juice. How many blessings do you have? Kane muttered from the side, slightly surprised. His eyes narrowed as he studied Neo's figure. And is that okay? Even if Artemis blessing can help you activate the blessings infinitely, it doesn't remove the burden on your body. Kane leaned back and crossed his arms. Your body will break slowly from the inside. I have a way, Neo replied. He triggered the 3rd stage of his blessing, Springbloom. The sudden surge from previous buffs was immense. They were so strong they tore his body apart from insides. But the Springbloom healed him. His wounds stitched themselves back together instantly. The pain barely had time to register before it faded away. His muscles, his bones, even his internal organs, everything was healing at a pace that defied reason. Activating so many abilities placed an unbearable strain on his soul and mind. A normal demigod, even if exalted, would have collapsed under the pressure. But it didn't matter to Neo. Springbloom could heal his soul. And his mind was incredibly powerful. As a heavenbreaker, there were only a few who could rival him in his specialty. His mental resilience bordered on monstrous. He could maintain this state for days, if not weeks. In other words, Right now, Neo had effectively become an unkillable, undying machine, 4 times stronger than his base state. Neo cracked his knuckles. You look hyped up, Kane observed. Yeah, I've never felt better. Until now, Neo had never kept his blessings active due to the immense cost of world energy. Infinite mana solved that problem for him. His body shot forward. The space around him twisted violently, torn apart by the sheer force of his movement. The wind howled in protest, forming a sonic boom in his wake. Neo sensed 2 attacks from different directions, both aimed at his head. He ducked and kept moving. The ostriches suddenly appeared out of thin air. Their attacks missed, taken by surprise by Neo's impossible speed. Their beady eyes widened in shock. Only 300 meters remained until the golden apple tree. Without warning, an ostrich leg appeared out of thin air, directly in his path. Neo's eyes widened. Before he could react, his foot collided with it. Being caught off guard surprised him. His focus broke, and for a brief moment, the blessings stopped. The collision broke his momentum. Neo crashed. His body rolled violently across the ground, dirt and grass flying up in his wake. He gritted his teeth as he finally slammed into something hard, forcing him to stop. A low, mocking whistle rang in his ears. Fweet. Neo groaned. His vision cleared, and he turned his head. The damned birdbrain was grinning. It stood before him, smug and victorious, 1 foot planted firmly on Neo's chest. Neo's eye twitched. Fweet. Fweet. I think I'm starting to hate ostriches. Neo re-triggered his blessings, allowing his injuries to heal. He walked back to the starting point. His steps were heavy with frustration beneath his calm expression. There, Percival seemed to be getting dragged by an ostrich. Quote. Question mark quote. Neo's brows twitched as he watched the absurd sight. Percival's limp body left a trail on the dirt. His arms swayed lifelessly as the large bird towed him back effortlessly. Sometimes the mind gets stunned due to repeated deaths, Kane explained, not looking particularly concerned. He leaned his legs on the wooden fence and sunk into the chair. Since he can't move right now, Momathy is helping him get back. Momathy. Neo repeated in a flat voice. Yeah, Momathy is that one. Kane gestured lazily. Dorothy is the one who's been drinking juice this whole time, and Timothy is the one who's been laughing at you. The oldest is Timothy, then Momathy, then Dorothy. Momathy, the second eldest, finally reached the starting point and lowered Percival onto the ground carefully. It did so gently. Then, to Neo's disbelief, the ostrich gave a small bow, as if apologizing. And with that, it disappeared. Percival gasped awake. His eyes darted around. His expression shifted between confusion and simmering irritation. Welcome back, Kane greeted with a smirk. Good work out there. Tisk. Percival clicked his tongue and stood up, dusting off his clothes. He exhaled sharply. Without wasting another second, he reactivated his blessing. Golden flames surged around his body as he bolted forward at full speed. Only to die before a second had even passed. His body vanished. A moment later, he walked back to the starting point, his steps slower this time. Frustration was clear on his face. I'm going to boil them when I catch them with these hands, he muttered darkly as his fingers twitched in irritation and anticipation. His words were intense. Neo felt the same. It was one thing to be outsped. But it was another thing to be mocked while losing. Neo was about to try again when he suddenly stopped. As much as he hated to admit it, he couldn't outspeed the birdbrain. Not now. He needed to try something else. Shadow jump doesn't work. What about something else? Neo frowned. He didn't have any movement spells. Incantations with air or space elementals. That could work, especially thanks to his trait. Closing his eyes, he took a deep breath, pushing aside his irritation. Air. A soft breeze stirred around him. Green motes of light flickered into existence. The tiny elementals playfully floated around him. What is it? What is it? The elementals. Voices echoed in his mind, light and whimsical. You want our help. Help. Yes. Neo wants our help. Hee hee. Neo wants our help. The elementals giggled and swirled around him like children playing a game. Neo noticed something strange. He could hear the air elementals talking among themselves. Should we help him? Let's help him. I want to fly around. Let's fly. Fly. I don't like him. Let's not help him. The elementals. Opinions were all over the place. Some zipped around him eagerly, while others floated aimlessly, indifferent. Neo's brows furrowed slightly. Before, when his trait was grade 5, he couldn't hear them converse with each other. When I asked for help to bloom flowers, I never noticed internal debates or anything similar. It made me wonder how all elementals always came to the same decision. His gaze deepened as the realization settled in. I guess the problem had been my trait. It was too low level before. Chapter 411 Pseudo Gap. Neo was drowned in thoughts when air elementals approached him. The air around him swirled playfully. We've made our choice. And that is, we are not going to help you. The wind howled briefly, as if laughing at his predicament. It's funnier to see what is happening right now. More entertaining. Neo nodded, unfazed. He had expected such a reaction from air. Their nature was fickle, driven more by amusement than duty. Instead, he called upon another set of elementals. Space. Silver motes of light appeared around him. A deep, echoing voice resonated from the shimmering lights. What is it, little one? I want your help. Whether we can help you or not depends upon the weight of your wish. If it's too heavy of a wish, not just us, but every elemental won't be able to help you unless you pay an appropriate price. Neo was not surprised by the revelations. It would have been weirder if the elementals helped him just because he could talk with them. It's a simple request. Teach me about the pseudo gap Kane was talking about. On the side, Kane observed Neo. He could sense the space elementals fluctuating. It seemed like Neo could communicate with the elementals. The news was surprising, but not entirely impossible. If it's that alone as your request, we can teach you without any cost. The silver motes moved, forming a glowing pattern in the air to draw his attention. They displayed the dimensional shift movement. Gap is what people refer to as dimensions that exist on different, or higher, frequencies. Most people remain unaware of these dimensions and can never interact with them. By having space affinity, one gains the ability to perceive the gap and manipulate it. As they spoke, some of the elementals drifted toward Kane, circling him. Unlike them, you and this child don't have space affinity. You can neither perceive the gap nor manipulate it. Neo frowned slightly, recalling something. Wait a second, I was able to see the other dimensions when I fell through the gap. How could I do it if I couldn't perceive the higher dimensions? When you enter another dimension, your frequency is adjusted to match it. That was why you were able to perceive the worlds when you entered them. In exchange, you couldn't perceive your original world since your frequency had changed. The space elementals explained with the patience of a teacher addressing a child. They ensured their words were simple and easy to understand. Although you can't perceive the gap, it still exists. And since it exists, you can interact with it. The gap could be thought of as hard clay. Stronger children, those with space affinity, could touch the clay, interact with it, and change its shape, manipulate it, since they had the strength to do so, they had space affinity. Normal children, those without space affinity, could touch the clay, interact with it, but they could not change its shape, not manipulate it, since they lacked the strength, lacked space affinity, to do so. If you try to enter the gap, you will fall into it uncontrollably. That can never change. Unless you have space affinity, it's impossible for you. The words of the space elementals made Neo's brows crease. His fingers curled slightly as he processed their meaning. There was no use in being able to move in the gap, interact with it, if he could never control it. Without the ability to perceive the gap, he would always get lost within it. It's not useless, the space elementals suddenly said. You can interact with the gap, and you can, in a limited way, use it. How? Neo asked swiftly. His voice carried a hidden urgency. He didn't realize it, but he had started to become frustrated with his growth. He wasn't strong enough. Ranking up helped, but it was not everything. If all he did was rank up, he would never match those on the same level as him, or stronger than him. He needed powerful techniques of his own and a strong foundation. Only then could he become truly strong. Pseudo gap. Neo listened carefully. Call it a technique, a state, or even a place if you want. Pseudo gap is the transitional phase between the dimensions you can perceive naturally and the gap. Think of it as taking a step into the gap, but not entering it fully, and keeping a foot in your own dimension. By doing this, you leave an anchor in your dimension, which stops you from falling into the gap, and allows you to utilize the gap. How do I enter this pseudo gap? By training. You know how to enter the gap. Entering the pseudo gap is same. It only require more careful control. Neo mulled over the space elementals' words. It sounded easy to do. He had entered the gap once already. Now he had to do it again, but only halfway. That should be easier than entering the gap completely. Neo moved. He tried to enter the gap. The movements were fluid, but suddenly, he jerked and stopped. Cold sweat covered his body when he realized what had happened. I was about to fall into the gap. The moment he tried to enter, it was as if his entire body was being sucked into it. An invisible force pulled at him, dragging him toward the place he could not perceive. Had he not stopped in time, he would have fallen. Space, can you bring me back if I fall like last time? It depends on if you are willing to pay the price and. The space elementals hesitated, their glow dimming slightly before they added. If you fall into forbidden lands again, it will be impossible to bring you back. Neo's expression darkened. He wanted to ask about the forbidden lands, but he could tell the space elementals did not want to talk about it. Their usually steady presence wavered slightly, as if even speaking of it was dreadful. Instead, he asked another question. What if I fall somewhere else, like another world or dimension, and I'm willing to pay the price to return? Chapter 412 Uncontrolled Evolution, Monsterization, Limiter. We will help you, but the return will not be instantaneous, and it will be filled with dangers. Neo nodded, having expected this answer. Talking to elementals and having them manifest their powers for his use cost him mental energy. Movement between dimensions would cost even more, draining him to his limits. Neo would have to take breaks on the way back to recover. It would take time. He might also encounter a powerful enemy while he was resting. Hence, it was dangerous. Thank you for explaining everything. It was nothing. The silver motes flickered one last time before disappearing. Neo stood still, contemplating the word space had left behind. His eyes shifted to his surroundings. Above, a sunshine, floated in the air, casting a bright radiance over the battlefield. It was probably night, given how the original sun of Tartarus had disappeared, leaving only sunshine. Behind, a voice rang out, breaking the silence. I've been dying for 7 hours. Percival's voice boomed, filled with frustration. 7 hours. I'm dying, and dying. Percival grabbed handle of his massive warhammer. His muscles tensed, veins bulging as his patience snapped. I'm done playing nice. With a roar, he surged forward at high speed. Before Dorothy, the ostrich, even appeared, he swung his giant hammer toward the empty space on his left. The force of the swing sent shockwaves rippling through the air, distorting the space around him. He couldn't sense the ostriches. The reason he attacked was his battle instincts. It told him that was where Dorothy would appear. His attack was perfect. As a seraph, he had lived multiple lives and stacked battle experience from countless battles. It came as no surprise that he struck the exact spot where Dorothy was about to emerge. But, the ostrich suddenly teleported. No, it didn't teleport. The space elementals never moved. Percival was sure of it since he had been keeping an eye on the space. Yet, the ostrich moved from his left to right instantaneously. How? The space elementals did not show any sign. Before he could complete his words, Dorothy delivered a quick stab to his head. Pain exploded in his skull, and his vision darkened. He was dead. A few seconds later, instead of resuming his mindless charge, Percival sat down at the starting point. His expression said he was contemplating over something. Why did you stop? Neo questioned. I need to change my approach. This isn't helping. After the last skirmish, Percival had grown confident he could defeat Dorothy. The ostriches were fast, but they were neither strong nor durable. Earlier, he could have used his hammer to bash Dorothy's face in. But he didn't. There are 2 more ostriches. I'm sure they are faster than Dorothy. I would have been stopped even if I defeated Dorothy. Reading Percival's thoughts cleared Neo's doubts. Having realized he could now defeat Dorothy, the bird that had been drinking his brain juice all day, Percival felt there was no need to continue his reckless assault. He had his revenge. Now, he needed a plan to actually progress. I'm not peeking into his thoughts. I respect others' privacy. Neo rationalized his actions shamelessly. The only reason I read his mind now is because I need to understand why he's acting like he isn't Apollo. Although he didn't find the reason behind Percival's strange behavior, there was another thing didn't make sense to Neo. His growth is too fast. He was barely able to react to Dorothy's speed. Now he can react to it easily. All this happened within a day. How is that possible? Seems like you realized it, Kane suddenly said. His growth speed is fast, right? Neo turned to Kane with furrowed brows. What's the reason behind it? Percival asked, voicing the same doubt. He had realized something was wrong. The growth speed was unnatural. It's because of your soul. Kane continued. Soul is the source of evolution, and your body is a limiter, or a cage if you want to call it that. Staying in a soul state, a state without a body, allows you to grow faster. Quote ellipsis dot question mark quote. Percival frowned. Then why doesn't everyone train in a soul state? Because it's dangerous. The soul evolves quickly, true. But it is an uncontrolled evolution. Most of the time, you gain mutations that are both harmful and powerful. The body is present to prevent that. It limits the evolution speed and makes sure the evolution isn't uncontrolled. Instead, it ensures the evolution follows a proper direction, Kane explained. His words made a lot of sense to Neo. Neo finally understood why the underworld of Earth gave bodies to the souls of the dead. It delays monsterization. Uncontrolled evolution means they will grow with haphazard mutations. That's how souls become monsters. Having a body slows down the evolution, preventing people from becoming monsters. These haphazard mutations must be why monsters are stronger than awakeners and demigods of the same rank. Neo smiled bitterly. Most people, if not all, blamed darkness for souls turning into monsters. If he was to believe Kane's words, darkness did no such thing. It was all the doing of uncontrolled evolution. After Kane explained everything, Percival was staring at him with a stiff expression. So you are saying I'm growing faster because of uncontrolled evolution. But doesn't that mean I'm more prone to monsterization at the same time? You are. Kane nodded. This is a very dangerous training method. For you, and for us. If you become a monster, you will be an immortal monster, praised Tartarus, and taking those monsters down is hard. Very hard. That's why I hope you don't fall to monsterization. Quote. Percival no longer had the energy to get angry after the day's events. He just gave a deadpan stare, his warhammer resting beside him in the dirt. It's not my fault. This is the only way you can be strong enough to join the grand expedition in only 5 days. And if you want to die less, just work together with Neo, Kane said with a chuckle. I'll think about it, Percival said, his usual enthusiasm nowhere to be seen. Chapter 413 Treasure of Shadow Supreme. Neo raised his eyebrow, surprised to hear the words. You are thinking about working together. I'm not, but I'm not stupid enough to keep trying to fight alone when it's clear I can't complete the training myself. That was a surprisingly mature answer from Percival. Neo sat down beside him. He was tired from talking with elementals, and this was a good chance to speak with Percival. Moments like these were important. After all, he was planning to have Percival help him heal Elizabeth. Can't you outspeed the ostriches with your blessing? I'm trying, but it's not really working. Might is geared towards strength, not agility. The blessing does increase speed, though it's a side effect that appears due to an increase in muscle strength, Percival replied, his tone slightly frustrated. How about using the light element? That. Percival released a long sigh, running a hand through his hair. I'm using light as much as I can for speed. He gave Neo a side glance, studying him carefully. That's why it's weird. How come you are faster than me without using the light element? I have my own blessing. What? Percival's eyes widened in shock. You are the son of Hades. Yeah, to be honest, I didn't think you would know blessing holders are all direct children of gods. Of course, I know about it, Percival said, trying to hide his surprise. His fingers curled slightly against the dirt. I'm the son of a god myself. Well, my first reincarnation was son of Apollo. Yeah, Neo frowned. He read Percival's intent, and sure enough, Percival really thought he was Apollo's son. It confirmed Neo's doubt. Percival didn't have any memory of his life as Apollo. Deciding to change the topic after getting his answer, Neo leaned back slightly against the wooden fence. How about you use your concept of light element? Concepts are specialized powers, so you should be able to generate an overwhelming amount of speed with it. Percival suddenly burst into laughter. Do you know about my concept, or was that a coincidence? He asked, wiping away a tear. Quote. My concept of light is overwhelming, he said, then stood up with a smile. I've been using overwhelming to boost my strength. That's what the concept was made for, but I guess it's time to change things. A concept, once made, could not be changed. Neo was an exception to this rule. He could do it only because of the technique a genius like Kane created. Most people carried a single concept for every element throughout their life. Concepts were powerful but not versatile. The method to circumvent such an issue was only one: implementation. One could have multiple implementations of a single concept. To explain it in simpler terms, Percival had gained overwhelming as his concept due to the overwhelmingly existence of the sun, which was the source of light. He used it to boost his strength, overwhelming might. This was his basic implementation. Now, he was trying to change the implementation to overwhelming speed. Needless to say, it was easier said than done. Percival dashed toward a tree, his body a blur of motion. Fweet. Fweet. Dorothy swiftly stabbed him, and Mammothie brought him back to life. Neo sighed as he watched the cycle repeat. I thought you wanted help. Yeah, I do. But let me try all my tricks until then, Percival said, having already overcome his earlier gloom. Besides, I can get stronger faster this way. He bolted ahead with renewed enthusiasm, his determination shining in his eyes. Unlike him, Neo did not take a step forward. You aren't going to start? Kane questioned. I will do it later. Instead of entering the farm, Neo remained outside. He focused, trying to use dimensional shifting to enter pseudo-gap. While it was dangerous, it was too useful of a technique to ignore. He moved, recalling the movements of air elementals. They were easy to copy. Their grace, their flow, but that wasn't enough. I need to do it differently. The air elementals moved in the gap. I need to move in pseudo-gap. It's different. His mind flashed back to the slight movements he had seen from Kane. It had only been for a short moment, but he had seen Kane access pseudo-gap. He tried to mimic it. It was far from enough. Beads of sweat rolled down his back as he concentrated. A moment of negligence, and he would fall. He had to be careful. Minutes, or maybe hours, passed. Neo was immersed in his training, and he forgot about time. He moved. 1 step. 2 steps. His body remained where it was. Only someone who could see the gap thanks to their spatial affinity would notice that Neo had moved. For everyone else, he was still on the same spot. Taking a deep breath, Neo took the 3rd step. His body blurred, and he instantly appeared 100 meters away. It worked, he thought while breathing heavily. But it was only a coincidence. Let's do it again. He took 1 step. Then, another. Although he covered a huge distance with both steps, it seemed as though he had not moved an inch. The world around him remained unchanged. It was only when he took the 3rd stop. The darkness lurched. It grabbed him and pulled him back. Neo fell to the ground, his damp shirt clinging to his back. His breath came in ragged gasps. Ha, ha. Neo had almost fallen into the gap. He had only survived thanks to the darkness elementals intervening at the last moment. Stop, 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 this is dangerous, Neo. Darkness elementals circled him anxiously, their whispering voices overlapping like a chorus of worried murmurs. The mere thought of him being in danger made them tremble. Training like this is dangerous. Use the treasure Shadow Supreme gave you. Use that treasure want those birds. You can learn it from the birds. Neo wanted to ask what the darkness was talking about. Triager of Shadow Supreme. Before he could say anything, a sharp pain tore through his mind. He clutched his head, gritting his teeth as the pain seared through him. Then, just as suddenly, it disappeared. The moment the darkness elementals vanished, the oppressive weight lifted. It left Neo drenched in sweat. His limbs trembled slightly. Mental energy was spent depending on the number of elementals he communicated with. And unlike other elementals, all darkness elementals were one and many at the same time. Talking to a single darkness elemental was the same as talking to all darkness elementals at once, which caused an enormous consumption of mental energy. Had the darkness tried to speak longer, it would have been dangerous for Neo. He exhaled slowly, forcing himself to focus. What did it mean? Use the reward Shadow Supreme gave me. Neo clutched his head, feeling the lingering aftereffects of the pain. His intent vision weakened for a moment before clearing. No matter how much he thought about it, he couldn't find an answer. He decided to focus on the other point for now. Darkness told me to learn it from the birds. If I believe what darkness said, those ostriches are also using pseudo-gap. It would explain their instantaneous speed, even though they are not using teleportation. Neo looked toward the farm. He understood. Learning about pseudo-gap by himself was dangerous. Darkness wanted him to observe. Using a reference would decrease the difficulty. What is this? Neo focused on the movement of the ostriches as they left pseudo-gap, causing them to become visible again. His senses followed their transitions, how they entered and exited the space with seamless ease. I think I can copy that if I try a bit. Neo was baffled by his own words. Chapter 414 Mastering Pseudo-Gap. Since when had he become talented enough to mimic others just by watching? Thinking back, it had happened last time too, when he copied the air elementals and ended up falling into the gap. Even now, he could replicate the movements Percival had just performed after only a few glances. Is this what darkness meant by using the treasure of Shadow Supreme? But I don't remember getting any prize like this. Confused, Neo could only put the issue aside for now. He stepped into the farm. He had to watch closely if he wanted to copy their movements perfectly. Because even a slight error would cause him to fall into the gap. He couldn't afford a mistake like that. While moving, Neo kept his blessings active. He had been doing so since the beginning of the training. It was his way of adapting, of forcing his body and mind to get used to their effects. Then, he dashed forward. As expected, the ostriches reacted instantly. Instead of increasing his speed, he maintained his pace and sharpened his senses. The birds moved fast. They suddenly appeared at his sides, their large bodies exiting the pseudo gap. Neo focused. He memorized every detail of their movements, down to the tiniest shifts in their posture, the way their muscles tensed before phasing in and out. Dorothy and Mammothie lunged at him. Neo dodged effortlessly. The youngest bird let out an irritated chirp and increased the pace of its attacks. Neo moved fluidly, sidestepping every strike with ease. Thanks to his multiple blessings, his stats were sky high. But he didn't celebrate. The real hurdle was yet to come. Fweet, fweet. Timothy's shrill cry rang through the air, almost like a battle announcement. In the next instant, a leg appeared in Neo's path. There was no room to dodge. With access to pseudo gap, Timothy could move instantly and block Neo's escape with precision. Neo acted as planned. He kicked with full force, aiming to counter the block with an attack. His leg should have collided with Timothy's outstretched limb. However, his foot phased straight through. No, it looked like it phased through, when in truth, it went around it. Fuck, it used pseudo gap. Before Neo could complete his thought, Timothy's leg swept forward. A solid impact struck Neo's other, standing leg that was connected to the ground. He lost his balance. His body crashed onto the dusty ground. Fweet. The bird spread its wings in triumph. Its large frame cast a shadow over Neo's fallen form. As if savoring its victory, Timothy began to dance around him. Fweet. Fweet. The other ostriches joined in, their loud calls echoing in the air. Neo lay there for a moment, staring up at the sky. The clouds drifted lazily above. And all he could think was, I'm going to grill these fuckers if that's the last thing I do. Despite his inner feelings, Neo stood up with a neutral expression. The dry dirt clung to his clothes, and he dusted them off before silently returning to the starting point. His movements were calm. Too calm. Timothy tilted its head, confused by the human's lack of reaction. Had the taunting not been enough? Until today, the human always brought a dragon child with him. Teasing her had been amusing at first, but eventually, it got boring. That was why the three ostriches had been so excited when the human brought new toys a few days ago. The two newcomers were much more entertaining to play with. Their reactions had given the birds plenty of laughter. But now, Timothy didn't understand. Why had the black-haired human suddenly become so different? Timothy attacked again, its powerful legs sweeping toward Neo's feet. As always, the human tripped. And, as always, he simply dusted off his clothes and returned to the wooden barriers without a hint of frustration. Again. And again. Was he not getting angry at being defeated so easily? Timothy narrowed its eyes and changed its approach. It started tripping Neo closer to the tree, ensuring he was just a step away before sending him to the ground again. A near victory, snatched away at the last moment. Surely, that would frustrate him. But no, Neo remained indifferent. Meanwhile, on the other side of the farm, the hammer-wielding human was beginning to cause trouble for Timothy's siblings. But Timothy didn't pay attention to them. It had decided, no matter what, it would get a reaction out of the black-haired human. So, it continued tripping him. Yet the human still showed no signs of irritation. Timothy was puzzled. What was this human trying to do? Then, suddenly, a hand shot toward its neck with deadly precision. Fweet. Timothy flinched, barely moving out of the way in time. For a moment, a chill ran down its spine. Normally, people tried to attack Timothy and its siblings, but their aim was always poor, as if they couldn't properly perceive space. The birds never understood why, but it made bullying others so much easier. Yet this human, he had aimed directly at Timothy's neck. It must have been a coincidence. Or so Timothy thought, until the human tried again. His second attempt, however, was off. His movements were still rough, still lacking the precision of his first strike. Neo clenched his fist, gazing at his hand. It's almost within my grasp, he muttered under his breath. Timothy didn't understand the human's words. But for some reason, they felt like an ominous premonition. Then, once again, the human ran forward from the wooden barriers. Timothy had already adjusted to his speed. It wouldn't be taken by surprise anymore. The bird stretched out its leg, preparing to trip him once more. When suddenly, the human kicked at its feet. The attack, which should have been aimed poorly like all the others, was now frighteningly precise. Timothy's eyes widened in shock. It hurriedly withdrew its leg, retreating just in time. Had it not moved, the force of the blow would have shattered its bones. Before Timothy could retreat into the pseudo-gap completely, the human grabbed its leg and yanked it back. Fweet! Timothy shrieked, startled. Its wings flapped wildly, kicking up dust as it struggled to escape the human's grasp. But then, it froze. The human was smiling. A faint, kind smile. Yet, for some reason, it sent a shiver down Timothy's spine. Fear crept up its chest, and before it realized it, it started to cry. Tears welled in its large, dark eyes as pitiful chirps escaped its beak. Why are you crying? The human's voice was calm. I haven't even grilled you yet. He raised his hand, and black flames erupted on the ground. The dry grass withered instantly, and the heat distorted the air. The fire crackled hungrily as dark poles formed at its sides, and above them, a single horizontal pole hung in place. Timothy's entire body stiffened. Alarms blared in its mind. It could feel the searing heat licking at its feathers. Was this human planning to eat it? Fweet! 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 Timothy cried desperately, flailing its legs. The human's grip remained firm. His smile widened slightly. Why are you crying? Laugh. Laugh. You fucking bitch. Laugh like you were laughing before. Chapter 415 Cannibalism. Neo felt satisfied as the bird cried. He tied it above the mimicked flames before he walked toward the tree in the center of the farm. The mimicked flames weren't strong enough to kill Timothy, but they would terrify the bird for centuries to come. The other two ostriches didn't interrupt him. If their eldest and fastest sibling couldn't stop Neo, then they could not do it either. They merely watched, their large eyes filled with silent resignation. Neo plucked an apple from the tree before returning to the starting point. You did it, Cain said with mixed emotions, his gaze shifting between Neo and the restrained bird. You don't look happy. The goal of the training was to teach you teamwork, but you brute forced it, Cain replied. Still, good work. If you can handle the birds alone, you should be a lot safer inside the abyss of nightmares. While Neo talked with Cain, he noticed Percival staring at him. What is it? Want me to help you complete the training? I can do it myself. Percival slung the hammer over his shoulder and returned to the training. Neo chuckled at his attitude. He wasn't worried about Percival. At the rate he was growing, he should be able to complete the training within the next few days. You can go back now, Cain said. We have 2 more days before we meet up with the Grand Expedition. Use this time to learn the concealment spell I gave you. Take this too. Cain passed a piece of paper to him. What's this? Language spell. We get a lot of immigrants in Tartarus, and everyone has different languages. This spell changes your words into the Tartarus Unified Language. What about the interpretation? Everyone would speak in the same language thanks to the spell. However, they needed to learn the language to understand its meaning. The spell has an inbuilt interpreter that converts the language into pure thoughts, and allows you to understand them. After talking with Cain, Neo entered the forest. The trees loomed tall, their twisted branches forming a canopy that blocked most of the sunlight. The air was thick with the scent of earth and distant, rustling leaves. Suddenly, he heard a voice. Thanatos. Neo instantly expanded the range of his senses to the limit. He frowned. Thanatos was a name anyone in Tartarus should not know. He searched around but found no one. Who said my name? Was it elementals? The voice had been familiar yet different. Neo couldn't place a finger on where he had heard it before. Who could it be? Neo's thoughts stopped when he noticed the sun in the sky. Sunshine, did you call out my name right now? He asked bluntly. The spirit should not remember Neo. The timeline had been changed, and Sunshine never met Thanatos. The golden sun remained silent, acting as if it was an inanimate object. Sunshine. There was no response. Neo could only shake his head and return to his task. The dense foliage rustled as he zipped through the forest at high speed, the wind whipping against his face. I need to talk to Olivia and ask for her help to heal Elizabeth. Neo could sense Olivia and Nicola inside the house from hundreds of kilometers away. He was confident Olivia would help him. But he couldn't ask about it in front of Nicholas. The old man seemed like a hard-headed guy, and Neo had insulted his authority by publicly shaming his disciple. Even if Neo hadn't done that, Nicholas was one of the demigods who were Elizabeth's enemy. He would not want her to be healed. Neo needed to wait until Olivia was alone before approaching her. Since he couldn't do that now, he focused on his other main task. This place should be good enough. Neo stopped at an inconspicuous aura. The clearing was quiet, with only the occasional rustling of leaves breaking the silence. Velkaria, come out. His shadows expanded and spat a single maggot out. What is it? She asked. Oh, you can talk now. Yes, I learned your world's language. No, I meant to ask, how can you talk without a mouth? This body has an organ for it. Can't you see my tiny, little, beautiful mouth? She replied smugly. Just talk with thought, Neo said, not outright saying a worm talking looked creepy. He had expected Velkaria to say she could compress air with some spell and talk with it. Not this. Velkaria guessed his thoughts, though she saw no reason to obey his command. Just then, a caterpillar rolled out of Neo's pocket. Hugh, is it just me, or did your pet just look at me and ask you if I'm its lunch? Velkaria asked while sweating. After Neo broke through multiple ranks, Beelzebub was strengthened as well. He was now stronger than her. Knowing the little glutton, she was worried she couldn't escape if he tried to eat her. Hugh, he is saying he always wanted to try something from his same species. That's why he wants to eat you. We are not the same species. We just look alike. Velkaria shouted, stunned and horrified. And if we were from the same species, eating me would have been cannibalism. Caillou. Velkaria choked when she heard Beelzebub's question. No, cannibalism isn't something to eat. It means. She looked around, trying to decide the best words that would stop Beelzebub. It means a person you should never eat. Yeah, that's what it means. QQ. Beelzebub said something similar to, is that so? And jumped down from Neo's pocket. The ground beneath him was covered in soft moss, cushioning his movements as he dragged himself over to Velkaria. While both were worms, Velkaria was not even half the size of Beelzebub. Beelzebub was much more pleasant to the eye. He could down her with a single gulp. Watching her closely, Beelzebub started to salivate. Hugh. Fuck no. She swiftly transformed into a floating eyeball. The flew around and hid behind Neo, trying to use him as a shield. Hugh. I ran away because you looked like you were going to eat me. Chapter 416 Asking for help from Olivia. Velkaria had multiple bodies and could repopulate as long as even one body remained, but she didn't want to experience the sensation of being eaten if she could help it. Unknown to her, Beelzebub had no plan of eating her. He just wanted to make the hierarchy clear. Although he didn't hate her, he didn't like her either. It was hard to have a good impression of someone who killed him multiple times in the Shadow Trial. Now that you changed your appearance, let's get to the main topic. Can you feel a connection between us? I can feel something like that. Is it related to your skill? She answered, still keeping an eye on Beelzebub. The little glutton was looking around to eat something. That's exactly it. Crownless King said Neo would grow stronger with those he was bound to. He gained a skill from Velkaria after using the skill on her. Shared growth, a subskill of Crownless skill, was supposed to make Neo stronger as long as Velkaria grew stronger. He wanted to see how the skill worked. That's why he brought Velkaria here. Your trait is related to mental attacks, right? Yeah, why are you asking though? Train it and rank up. There is something I want to find out. Just when he finished his words, the trees were slashed. It was as if a giant blade had cut them in half. Leaves and splinters flew through the air as the forest shook violently. A colossal mantis emerged from behind the fallen trees, its emerald carapace glistening under the dim light. It stared at Neo with its beady eyes. The monster was one of the inhabitants of Tartarus. It attacked Neo without any hesitation. Neo used dimensional shift. He dodged the attack with ease, but to others, it looked as if he never moved and the attack had phased through him without doing any damage. The giant mantis kept swinging its scythes at Neo. When nothing worked, it shifted its focus to the eyeball. Ike, why is it looking at me? Fight it, Neo said. It's only one sub-rank stronger than you. Fight your mother. Corrupting those stronger than myself is hard with Void. How am I supposed to defeat it? Don't worry, you are immortal in this place. The immortality provided by Tartarus was the most basic one. The monster couldn't kill Velkaria. But Velkaria's attack, filled with void, could corrupt souls and would kill the monsters permanently. I hope she ranks up quickly. I want to see what kind of bonus I will get when she gets stronger. Neo combed through the forest, stepping over twisted roots and crushed foliage. He learned the 2 spells Cain gave him while devouring every monster he could find. His stats increased by 15, 5 strength, 3 agility, 7 constitution, after 10 hours. The stats were low, but Neo didn't complain. He needed every ounce of strength. His goal was to surpass stage 9 gods and remove his bloodline curse. For that, He needed to get everything he could find and grow stronger. 15 primary stats is quite good for just 10 hours. As I thought, this place is a heaven for me with my concept of darkness. Another 5 hours later, he defeated a grade 4 exalted rank monster and devoured it. It looked like a giant snake. The monster's main ability was to wrap around its target and crush them. Since Neo was too small for it to wrap itself around him, he did not have much trouble against it. Constitution +8, skin hardness +1. Neo raised a brow. He gained a lot of stats from this monster, probably because it was of exalted rank. Just after he finished the monster, he sensed Nicholas leaving the home. It gave Neo an opportunity to talk with Olivia. Neo covered the distance within a few dozen minutes and arrived at his destination. Welcome back, Olivia said, noticing him. I don't see the Sword Saint and Percival with you. They will be back by tomorrow. I came here early because I had something to talk with you. Olivia noticed Neo's serious expression. Is it something you can't say here? If we can talk in private, it would be good, Neo said, sensing Ava inside the house. Understood. Please lead the way. Neo and Olivia entered deep into the forest. The canopy above filtered the moonlight, casting shifting shadows on the ground. They stopped only when they had come far from the home. Neo searched through the area multiple times to make sure no one had followed them. I want to heal Elizabeth. Olivia was surprised at his blunt words. Why are you telling me that? I need a powerful healer with life and holy elementals to heal her. You want me to heal her? Yes, you have life element. I would appreciate it if you could use your abilities to cure her injuries. I don't have holy element. I know, but for now, life should be good enough. Elizabeth's condition is at a critical stage. Quote. Olivia looked troubled. She didn't want to leave a bad impression on Neo, but helping Elizabeth was not what she wanted either. If you can help me, I would help you too, Neo suddenly said. Quote. I will help you meet with Leonora, Neo said, then corrected his words. Don't worry, you don't need to die for that. That isn't something you should joke about, Olivia said, glaring at Neo for the first time. I'm not joking. I'm planning to subdue the Tartarus's world core, and have it fuse with our world. When that happens, Tartarus will become the part of our underworld. Since Tartarus is where both living and dead can walk. Then, Leonora and I can meet here, Olivia completed his words. Are you serious about this? She shook her head. No, I'm sorry, but no. It's impossible for you to do that. If you are going to lie, at least choose a good one. There is no way you can subdue a world core of Tartarus, strength. Since the monsters here were paragon and exalted, possibly even fabled, it meant Tartarus was a stage 3 world. It was far beyond the capacity of Neo, who was barely touching the peak of grade 2 exalted. Trivia. Traveling is one of Artemis' hobbies. Chapter 417 Healing Elizabeth. You don't need to worry about that. I have a plan. A plan. Olivia did not look convinced. Yes, it's a plan that's guaranteed to work. She frowned. Although she wanted to ask what the plan was, she kept her thoughts to herself. After all, Tartarus might be listening. Neo knew it too. That's why he did not say anything anymore. Olivia juggled between the choices. The obvious answer was to not accept Neo's deal. The tyrant was too dangerous. Olivia and Nicholas combined had no chance against the tyrant. That's how powerful she was. But the chance of reviving her daughter was too alluring of a choice. She hesitated. Neo's words were like the temptation of a demon. If you are worried about Elizabeth, then you don't need to, Neo said. Before, she was trying to protect her country like a cornered cat. That's why she was so desperate, trying to show off her might and scare away any potential dangers. She will not do anything like that anymore. Not after she was almost killed by the people of Mermaid Country, he explained. Cat. Olivia looked at him with a stunned gaze. You are comparing her to a cat. As far as Olivia knew, cats were cute little pets. Not some world-ending threats. If Elizabeth was a cat, then the underworld was a picnic spot. That's not the point. What I'm trying to say is you don't need to worry about her going down the path of tyrant again. What if she does? I will stop her if that happens. He would stop her. Elizabeth could easily rank among the strongest 10 exalted demigods in their world. It was impossible for Neo to defeat her when he was weaker than Nicholas and Olivia. Ha! Olivia couldn't help but chuckle bitterly. I want to say it's impossible, but it's at least more believable than you subduing Tartarus. Neo shrugged. The choice is yours. Help me save Elizabeth, and I'll help you meet Leonora. Okay. Her words were swift. If she needed to make a deal with the demon to meet her daughter, then she would do it. Besides, the dragon who remained at Neo's side was stronger than her. If Neo wanted to use force to make her work for him, he could have done that. What about the holy element? You need that too if you want to purify the void corruption, Olivia questioned. Percival needs time to increase his holy element mastery to that level. I doubt the tyrant has that much time left. Percival's mastery is not enough, but his guardian spirit has a powerful holy element affinity. The only thing holding back Sunshine is Percival's divine energy pool. If we can use something to boost Percival's divine energy pool temporarily, then Sunshine and you together can. Neo stopped speaking when he noticed Olivia's confused gaze. Was there something wrong with what I said? Who is Sunshine? It's the name of Percival's guardian spirit. Olivia seemed unsure, but she kept her doubts to herself. After they made the deal, Olivia entered Neo's shadow space. Her senses expanded instantly upon entering the sub-dimension. Its vastness surprised her. However, it was just the beginning. You have land here, and Olivia swiftly moved back and circulated her divine energy. Droplets of water started to appear around her. Was this your plan, Neo Hargraves? To ambush me after tricking me into entering your shadow space? She glared at him. Quote ellipsis dot dot question mark quote. Don't act clueless. The void entity here is the proof you are working with them. Neo followed Olivia's gaze and noticed the thousand-eyed pillars in the distance. They were staring at Olivia in confusion too. He realized what was happening. Okay, stop. This is a misunderstanding. Neo spoke before Olivia started to rain down spells on him. At least let me prove my innocence. Prove what? That thing there is my shadow summon. The principal of the Demigod Academy has vouched for it. Neo had overlooked the fact that Olivia would see him as an enemy as soon as she noticed Valkyria. He could only improvise and bring the legal documents signed by Charlotte. Here, see this. A bug brought the documents to Neo. He held them up, knowing Olivia could see the fine print even from the distance. It has the principal's sign, and her divine energy imprint. Olivia frowned. She slowed her chants and stopped the spells that were about to be released. She expanded her senses to examine the imprint of the papers. It's really Charlotte's divine energy imprint, she murmured. I told you. Neo walked towards her before giving her the papers. I brought Valkyria from the shadow trial. The principal gave me these documents knowing people won't trust me if I tell them the truth. Olivia took the papers while keeping her dozens of shields active. She went over the information multiple times. Her divine energy churned as she used spells to verify their authenticity carefully and make sure no tampering was done. Quote ellipsis dot. Everything you said is right. She looked up and stared at the thousand-eyed pillars. I know you must have a lot to say, but let's focus on the task at hand, Neo said. Olivia nodded. She followed Neo towards the place where Elizabeth was present. Her medical bed was placed inside a cozy house made from mimicked earth elements. The ventilators were connected to her, and the constant beeping of the monitor echoed in the room. A violet flower was placed at the top of her bed. Olivia's gaze was involuntarily drawn to the flower. She tried to ignore it and faced Neo. Should I start now? Yes, please do so. A thick green aura appeared around Olivia. She used her concept to heal the injuries of Elizabeth. The process took hours, during which Neo focused on creating essence, bringing his total essence to 11/1000ths. Olivia was drenched in sweat, her clothes clinging to her curves, by the end of the process. I've done the best I could, she said, breathing heavily. But as long as the corruption of void isn't removed, her injuries will keep reopening. Thank you for your help. Neo passed Olivia an energy drink and let her rest. He shifted his focus to Elizabeth. Her complexion had improved, and her breathing was stable. However, the deadline of the quest to save her remained the same. Chapter 418 Grand Expedition, Meeting an Outer God. It's clear now. Unless her injury and corruption are both treated, it's impossible to save her. Neo's gaze moved towards the flower placed at the top of the bed. Using the flower without her permission was not something he wanted. If nothing works, then I will try to enter her mind with my trait, and see if it's possible to talk to her mind in her dreams, and ask for permission to use the flower. Neo and Olivia left the shadow space when it was time to meet Cain. The Sword Saint came back with Percival, who looked quite healthy. Yes, all of you are right. Cain chuckled, noticing their reactions. I took Percival to a healing pond to make sure he was fine and dandy for the expedition. Another pond. Olivia muttered. Ha ha ha, we have quite a few ponds. All of them have their own purposes. The group had a weird expression as they nodded. Kane held one last meeting before they set out to meet the Grand Expedition. As I've said before, I have a clue to help you guys leave this place, Kane said and turned to Olivia. I know you must have a trump card that gives you confidence you can leave this world, but I have seen many examples of people thinking the same and failing. Please don't take my words the wrong way, but I think all of you should try to follow the lead I will be giving you and find a way out of this place, Kane explained. Please go on, Olivia said, showing that she wasn't offended by his words. Kane took out a picture from thin air and placed it on the table. The woman in the picture had white hair and red eyes. She was a familiar face. However, unlike the indifferent expression he was used to, the woman in the picture was smiling. Julie de Beaufort. She was able to leave Tartarus a few years ago. For some reason, she later returned and has been hiding inside the abyss of nightmares since then. One of the goals of the Grand Expedition is to find her and get the method of leaving Tartarus. Coincidentally, she is also from our world, and Kane stopped speaking, noticing their reactions. You recognize her? We do, Percival spoke, trying to make sense of the situation. She is the Tyrant Queen. He explained about Elizabeth to Kane. I see, so there is someone who looks exactly like her and shares the same family name. This is news to me, Kane nodded. We feel the same. No one ever came across any information about the Tyrant having a twin, much less that the twin lived in Tartarus, Percival commented. While no one paid attention, Olivia shifted her gaze to Neo. Her eyes were questioning him if he knew about this. Neo remained expressionless. The meeting ended shortly after. Then, Kane brought them towards the meeting point of the Grand Expedition. Follow me closely, and don't do anything rash, Kane warned. The group moved through the jungle for 2 days and nights. Neo used the time to master the language spell and the world energy concealment spell to a usable degree. We are here, Kane suddenly said. They walked towards the mountain's top, revealing the space beyond. The sight gave a shiver to the group. Millions, if not tens of millions, of beings were present in the plain below. Some looked like humans, having 4 limbs. Most had a bizarre, monster-like appearance. A round body, having the lower half of a snake, or wings of a bat. The ranks of the Grand Expedition were made of countless species. The weakest among them was Empyrean. Tens of thousands were paragons, and thousands were exalted. Watching an assortment of an army that could crush their world with ease made the group freeze. The reason for Neo's shock was different. This is the Blood Sea army that will invade Luminera in a few years. Neo was sure of his guess. He recognized some of the monsters. The 2 giant monster brothers that were taller than most skyscrapers were the most conspicuous. He remembered them from the book. Something is weird here. The army that attacked Luminera was a brainless monster army for the most part. But these guys are all sentient. Not to mention, they are much stronger than their monster versions that will invade Luminera. While Neo was busy sorting his thoughts, Kane chuckled. There is no need to be nervous. His words snapped the group out of their stupor. You 4 might not be the strongest. But you are good enough to walk among the ranks of the Grand Expedition with your head held high. You told us we were cannon fodder, Percival joked, having recovered from the shock. That was a white lie. It was meant to motivate you to get stronger. While the 2 talked, Neo scanned the members of the Grand Expedition with his senses. The more I see it, the more I get baffled. There was no need to say how strong an army consisting of thousands of exalted, tens of thousands of paragons, and millions of Empyreans was. But the real strength of the army was somewhere else. 7 powerful presences were present inside the tent at the center of the Grand Expedition. Their presence was stronger than the combined presence of everyone else in the expedition. Strong. Only one thought was present inside Neo's head. They are strong. Just then, one of the presences suddenly disappeared. Those are some new faces. The space next to Neo distorted, and a woman walked out. She had dark purple hair, amethyst eyes, and an extremely alluring aura that made one's heart beat loudly. Olivia, Nicholas, and Percival were instantly bewitched by her beauty. Only Neo remained clear-headed. 2 of you resisted my charm. She spoke, surprised. Her eyes looked at Neo and the blue flame floating near Neo's shoulder. Suddenly, Neo opened his mouth. Are you an outer god? Of course, I am, sweetie. Her small teasing smile was mesmerizing. Neo could feel her power of charm behind that smile. It was an extremely strong ability. If not for his mental resilience, he would have fallen for her at the first sight. Chapter 419 Void Dragon God. The woman leaned toward Neo, as if searching for something inside him. You must be tainted if you can tell I'm an outer god. She smiled. But your corruption feels weak. You haven't awakened void. Not yet. How about I help you? She stepped closer. A faint, alluring scent drifted toward Neo's nostrils, carrying a hypnotic sweetness that made his head feel light. Before the tension could escalate, Kane's voice cut through the air like a blade. Let them go. They are with me. Of course. She pulled back, and the invisible force holding Neo in its tight grip loosened. The bewitchment that had ensnared Olivia, Percival, and Nicholas also faded, leaving them momentarily disoriented. They noticed the presence of void around the woman and almost moved. Don't, Kane said before they could react. She is Black Medium Square, the clan leader of the Void Dragon clan, and an outer god, yes. But she isn't our enemy. Percival and Neo winced as Kane spoke the woman's name. A heavy force crashed down on their minds, like an iron hammer striking their skulls. Olivia and Nicholas fared better. As exalted, they could withstand the pressure, but even they couldn't hear her name clearly. A fabled, Neo thought. No, not a fabled. Kane called her a god. So I guess I should say she is a stage 3 god. The others remained tense. An outer god being a friend. That was impossible in their diaries. Don't bother, Neo said. Even if you try to fight her, she can kill us with a snap. The fact that she hasn't means she isn't our enemy. He spoke before their instincts could overtake reason, and before their hands could reach for their weapons. Thank you, dear, for standing up for me. The woman chuckled. Her honeyed voice was soothing to hear, and addictive. Despite her innocent face, her figure and presence resembled that of a succubus. Having been bewitched once, they now understood how dangerous she truly was. Why are you here? She questioned Kane. They are going to participate in the grand expedition, Kane replied. The woman gave them a sweeping glance before her gaze settled on the blue flame hovering near Neo's shoulder. Welcome, she said, a smile tugging at her lips. We appreciate all the help we can get. She was about to open a warp gate toward the tent when Kane suddenly stopped her. We will walk. I want them to adjust to the presences of this level, and it will help them familiarize themselves with other members of the grand expedition. If you say so. The woman led the way. Kane, Neo, and the others followed behind her. The massive crowd before them instinctively parted, creating a clear path. Neo could feel countless eyes watching him. Among them, the presence of exalted beings stood out the most. He could read their thoughts. New people. The grand disaster is here. The grand disaster. Why does that flame have the presence of an ancient dragon? We need to run. The great disaster has returned. The huge number of people made the intents entangled. Their intents clashed and overlapped, creating a chaotic mess. Neo could only decipher the most dominant ones, which were the thoughts of the majority. It didn't take long for him to realize who they meant by great disaster. Kane. Everyone was afraid of him. If everyone is afraid of Kane, there's a high chance he was fabled rank before his trait was sealed. He's far stronger than his gene limit dictates. Neo's gaze shifted toward Nicholas and Olivia. Those two, they should have been born when Earth was still stage -1. Their gene limit should have been Paragon, yet they are exalted. He continued pondering the reason behind it until they reached the tent. Inside, the space was sparse yet grand. A massive table stood at the center, surrounded by 9 chairs. 3 figures sat in the chairs. The remaining 3 seats were occupied by what appeared to be blurry holograms. A red-haired androgynous man, his flawless face expressionless, leaned forward slightly. His lean figure gave him an air of both grace and danger. Why are you here, Kane Williams? He asked. I'm here to meet my friends, Kane grinned. Before the man could respond, Kane turned to the group. The redhead is, let's call him Vlad, since you can't hear their true names. He is the clan leader of the Blood Dragon clan. He casually waved toward the man before gesturing toward the woman seated beside him. The woman next to him is Celestia, the clan leader of the Hope Dragon clan. She had long blonde hair and wore a blindfold. Although she seemed blind, Neo suddenly felt as if he had made eye contact with her, which should have been impossible. She gave him a curt before ignoring him completely. The empty seat next to her should be Zara's. As I've said before, she is the clan leader of the Void Dragon clan. Kane's gaze shifted to the young boy sitting beside Zara's empty seat. The brat next to Zara's seat is, who are you? Kane asked, narrowing his eyes. First time I'm seeing you. The boy grunted, his arms crossed. Black Medium Square, the clan leader of the Weapon Dragon clan. The headache again. Neo tried to ignore it and studied the boy. He looked barely 15. Despite his age, his aura was overwhelming, like a sword drawn and ready to strike. A brat as a clan leader? Kane asked, surprised. Shut your damned mouth. Great disaster, the boy snapped. You are a mere man. How dare you talk like that to me? Oh, Tyr, no need to be angry about such a simple thing. A teasing voice interrupted him. Before the boy could react, Zera, the Void Dragon clan leader, appeared behind him. She casually squished his cheeks between her fingers, stretching them as if he were a child. You, woman, not this again. Let me go. No, no, call me Big Sis if you want me to stop. Chapter 420 Forbidden Element and the Strongest Element. She pinched his cheeks harder, forcing his mouth shut. The boy squirmed in frustration, but Zera's grip refused to budge. Her mischievous smile only grew as he tried to escape. Kane ignored the duo and addressed Neo and the others. The Weapon Dragon clan changes their clan leader every 100 years through a tournament. He gestured at the struggling boy. The one who wins the tournament becomes the clan leader. He must be the new tournament winner. Though, if I have to be honest, I never thought a hatchling who isn't even 100 years old would become the Weapon Dragon clan leader. Kane continued. As for the three others, you can see they aren't present here. We can skip their introductions. They have sent their forces for Grand Expedition, but their clan leaders won't be participating themselves. He pointed at the three blurry holograms flickering over the remaining seats. Don't talk like it's not your damned fault. Great disaster. The boy, finally breaking free from Zera's grasp, spat the words through clenched teeth. His sharp fangs bared slightly as he glared at Kane. It's because of you and the other great disasters that the dragon clans can't divert all their manpower toward the abyss. We have to keep some forces here in case you and the others go berserk. The tension in the room thickened. Even the air felt heavier. Kane laughed. He raised his hands in surrender. Well, don't worry. My hands are tied, literally. Neo remained silent as he analyzed the dragon clan leaders one by one. Each carried an overwhelming presence. Blood Dragon Clan, the clan leader has the ability that would be one of the main culprits in the Blood Sea War. Void Dragon Clan, the clan leader is an outer god. Hope Dragon Clan. Judging from the name, their entire clan has hope affinity. I can't fathom how they managed to create a clan when everyone is born with a forbidden element. Forbidden elements could cause great harm to their users if not wielded properly. Hence, hope was classified as a forbidden element. A hope element user would always have hope. If their crush rejected them, they would always have hope that their crush would return. This could easily grow into an unhealthy mental condition that could force them to make wrong decisions. The most famous tale of a hope user was a man punching a wall. He wanted to break an iron wall, but he was too weak. Everyone told him to give up. However, the man remained steadfast in his efforts. He had hope and thus kept punching the wall. In the end, his hands became mangled, and he died of blood loss. The hope element would almost always turn its users into obsessive freaks. They would single-mindedly chase their goals once they set their minds to something. These three dragon clans were enough as is, but a weapon dragon clan was beyond my expectation. Neo's gaze moved to the young boy, the so-called clan leader of the weapon dragon clan. His youthful face didn't match the overwhelming aura he gave off. Weapon affinity is widely accepted to be the strongest affinity. If trained properly, its users become unmatched in the same rank. Having a clan full of freaks like that is as surprising as finding a clan of hope element users. Weapon affinity didn't affect only sword users, spear users, and the likes. A weapon was anything that could be used to attack. Words, prayers, spells, inventions like dolls or trucks. If it could harm, it was a weapon. Why have you brought those humans here? Vlad spoke. They want to participate in the Grand Expedition, Kane replied. Vlad frowned, seemingly wondering what the goal was for mere awakeners who were only at the exalted level to participate in Grand Expedition. A long silence stretched. Very well. They can come with us. With that, Vlad stood up. His long red hair swayed slightly as he turned towards the exit. It's time we depart. The four dragon clan leaders became serious. The boy, Tyr, stood up, and walked out first, followed by the others. Neo and the rest trailed behind as the dragon clan leaders stepped onto the grand stage just outside the tent. A vast plain stretched beyond them, filled with warriors preparing for war. For Grand Expedition. Instantly, the soldiers of the Grand Expedition became quiet. The boy stood upon the stage, and swept his gaze over the countless warriors before him. Then, he spoke. His voice wasn't just loud, it shook the world itself. The very air trembled, as if the weight of his words carried an undeniable force. Brothers and sisters, hear me now. Look around you. This is Tartarus. It thinks it can break us. It has taken our freedom, our bodies, even our deaths. But it will never take our spirit. We are not defined by these chains or this darkness. We are defined by our refusal to yield. Stand with me. Fight with me. For the light beyond this prison. For the future we will reclaim. We are unbreakable. And we will rise. Who stands with me? He questioned. We do. A roar erupted from the soldiers. Who fights with me? We do. Who dares to hope, to dream, to live? We do. The ground trembled beneath their unified cry. Dust rose from the force of their voices. The air became charged with electrifying enthusiasm. Some warriors gripped their weapons tighter, their eyes burning with newfound determination. Others slammed their fists to their chests in salute, their armor clanking in response. The boy raised his hand high. Today, we move. Today, we fight. Hold your weapon, and walk along with me. Today, we live. A deafening cheer erupted. The sound of millions of warriors shouting in unison sent shockwaves through the land. Even the sky above seemed to tremble. The boy turned around and left the stage. Cain, watching from a short distance, raised an eyebrow. He hadn't expected the other clan leaders to let the youngest one initiate the grand expedition. But after listening to him, he understood why. His weapon is his words, Cain muttered, arms crossed as he observed the lingering energy in the air. He boosted morale, enthusiasm, and gave several buffs with a single speech. You are right. Zara's voice suddenly sounded beside him. Cain glanced to the side. She had appeared next to him without a sound. Tyr is known as truth amongst his clan members, Zara explained, her voice carrying a hint of pride. It's said his word weapon concept is the strongest word weapon concept in the Weapon Dragon clan's history. Everyone believes he can surpass the primogenitor of the Weapon Dragon clan. Cain noticed the subtle smile on her lips. He narrowed his eyes. You look quite happy talking about him. Of course I am. Zara folded her arms, below her bosoms. Her expression one of satisfaction. He is going to marry my younger sister. I'm happy she found such a good man. Cain rolled his eyes. Found. Are you sure she did not bewitch him? Come on. We need to go, Zara said. The space around the group warped. They appeared in another area. Chapter 421 Zones and Protectors. A giant black tornado stood before them. Its base had a diameter of thousands of kilometers, and its height seemed to pierce the sky. The tornado, the entrance to the abyss of nightmares, emitted a powerful aura. Have you told them everything about the expedition? Zara questioned Cain. I will do that now, Cain replied. Okay. Make sure you don't forget any basic details. Even if we can't die in Tartarus, there are fates worse than death. They need to have all the information they can get to increase their chances of making it out through the abyss in one piece. Zara left the area. She began to teleport the grand expedition to their current location. Cain faced Neo and the others. Do you know Tartarus catches anything that floats on the blood sea and has high negative karma? We do. People aren't the only thing Tartarus captures like this. Quote ellipsis question mark quote. You people should know it. Something else that floats on the blood sea. Something that is not beings, but has life. Neo frowned. An idea came to his mind, but the implications behind it were dangerous. He kept his mouth shut and waited for Cain to continue. It's the worlds, Cain said. When a world gathers high negative karma, Tartarus swallows them. The abyss of nightmares is where those worlds are imprisoned. They are now a former husk of what they once were. Tartarus uses them as a shield to protect itself from the prisoners it has captured. He continued. Here, we call each world Tartarus has captured a zone. The abyss of nightmares has 3 floors, and each floor has 3 zones. Everyone will be teleported to a random zone on the first floor. After all 3 zones are cleared, you should be able to find a weak point in the floor and use it to travel deeper into the abyss and reach the next floor. Neo looked around. If they had to fight 9 worlds on their way to Tartarus, he could understand the need for millions of soldiers. Each zone has a protector. They are immensely powerful. Honestly, protectors are the reason why the previous grand expeditions failed. More than half of the Dragon Clan leaders who were slain inside the abyss were done so by the protectors, Cain explained. How were they slain? Isn't everyone immortal here? Percival questioned. Trapped in ice, turned insane, turned into a monster, had their souls devoured. There are a lot of ways around that immortality, Cain said. He noticed the grave expressions of the group. A chuckle left his lips. Don't worry. This expedition isn't going to be as hard as the previous ones. He gestured at the millions of soldiers. Unlike before, where quality or quantity was prioritized. This time we have both quantity and quality soldiers. Each one of them is a famous elite of Tartarus. They have mastered their own techniques, and their names are well known for their strength. Then, Cain looked towards the dragon clan leaders who were organizing the soldiers. The clan leaders of this generation are the most unique in history. Be it talent or personality. They are known as one of the best in their families. History. Cain returned his gaze to Neo and the others. Lastly, all protectors who were encountered by the previous expeditions have been taken care of by the expeditions themselves. Since those protectors can't fight anymore, you can navigate through the zones easily, Cain explained. Are you saying that protectors have been defeated already? Neo questioned, surprised. Not all protectors have been defeated, but yes, almost all of them are. Only the last protector, who stands in the third zone of the third floor, remains. The moment you defeat him, you will be able to enter the hidden fourth floor that hides Tartarus core, Cain replied. Neo's brows creased. 8 grand expeditions, and 8 defeated protectors. The number was a bit too coincidental for his liking. Did the previous grand expeditions lose while taking down the protectors? He asked. You can say that. Cain shook his head. Well, it's a lot more complicated. But if we're talking about overall results, each expedition took out 1 protector. The losses they took in exchange crippled the expeditions, and they were forced to leave. He chuckled. I said it already, but don't worry. This time will be different. There is only 1 protector. The expedition won't try to save manpower and resources, since they won't have to fight more protectors. We have scouted the last protector already and prepared measures to defeat him. Our side has never been stronger, Cain explained. What about the sacred treasure of Tartarus and the god weapon of Ares? Percival questioned. Where are they? The sacred treasure of Tartarus should be near its core. As for the god weapon of Ares, it's on the second zone of the second floor. We don't know the exact location, but that's where it was last seen, Cain replied. How big are these zones? Percival questioned, feeling a sense of ominous premonition. They are worlds. So, pretty big. Damn it, Percival muttered. Searching for the god weapon was not going to be easy. Oh right, if possible, don't die within Tartarus. You will be struck with random debuffs if you do. Permanent loss of strength, being randomly teleported to another zone. Those kinds of debuffs. While he was speaking, Zero returned. It's time. We are going to enter now. Did you brief them about the abyss? He looked through his thoughts to make sure he had not missed any important detail. When he was confident he had made no such mistake, he replied. I explained all major information they need. You can tell them about the minor details. Zara nodded and turned to Neo and the others. After you are teleported to the zones, follow the orders of the highest authority designated by the dragon clans. Make sure you don't start any infighting, she warned with a smile. If you anger a short-tempered dragon, they might just gobble you up. Chapter 422 Beginning of a Nightmare. Neo and the others followed her towards the large tornado. The dragon clan leaders entered first. Their bodies disappeared into the tornado. Neo could not sense what was happening on the other side. The soldiers of the grand expedition began to enter. Neo's group was the last one. Just when Neo was about to step into the tornado, Cain's voice echoed inside his, Percival's, Olivia's, and Nicholas' heads. Don't leave your backs exposed to the dragons. They are not enemies, but they aren't friends either. They nodded. Percival entered, followed by Olivia and Nicholas. Neo took a deep breath and stepped inside the tornado. He felt a shift when suddenly everything turned jarring. The familiar sense of teleportation now felt jarring, like a chalk was being scratched against a board. Incomprehensible noises began to tear Neo's sanity apart. Everything became suddenly quiet. The noises disappeared as abruptly as they had appeared. Neo could not move or see. It felt like he had no body, and none of his senses worked, not even intent senses. He was floating in a dark void. A voice appeared inside his head. You. What have you become? Why did you betray your bloodline? How can you do this to the legacy your father built upon his blood and sweat? The noises struck his head like hammers repeatedly. Why has the blood of the impartial death been sullied? You have no judgment. You are skilled. You are a sinner. The voice seemed to be on the verge of exploding from anger. Every time it spoke, Neo felt immense pain. It was as if his soul was being peeled layer by layer. He wanted to shout, to thrash around, but without a body, he could do nothing but be subjected to the pain. Your soul is tainted with sins. You cannot be the child of the monarch. Yes, you must be a mistake. The voice spoke as if it had made a decision. A powerful force crushed Neo's very being from all sides and entered his mind. Neo felt like an eternity passed. When the pain disappeared, he was suddenly standing in the main hall of a castle. He fell to his knees, breathing heavily. His limbs trembled. He touched his body, feeling relieved, finally being able to move. It took him time to regain his composure. He removed the damp hair clinging to his forehead and used his intent vision to look around as he stood back to his feet. His breathing was still unstable, but there was no time to rest. Why you? His attention snapped towards the source of the voice seated on the throne. He tried to use his intent vision to see who was there. But everything was blurry. None of his senses extended beyond a few meters around him. His senses were being restricted by something. No, this isn't restriction. It's almost like this is the natural limit of my senses. Neo clenched his fists. He could not feel the power he once had. That voice that attacked me. Honestly, it's almost guaranteed that it was Tartarus. Why did it attack me like that? And how did it take away my powers? Neo might have understood the loss of strength if he was an inhabitant of Tartarus. But he was not. In fact, as a heavenbreaker, not even Earth could take away his powers from him. Neo frowned. He could not access his shadow space and could not call Obidus back to him. Not even being able to call Obidus, the only time this happened was when I was in the vision of the Sphinx. Where am I? This can't be a vision since I can control my body. He moved towards the source of the voice he had heard before. A figure sat on the throne. Her blonde hair was disheveled, covering her face. A sword was impaled in her abdomen, and blood pooled beneath her. She raised her head with difficulty and stared at Neo with a smile. Why you took your sweet time to come back? Neo's heart froze. He opened his mouth and closed it. Words refused to come out. Did you forget me, my royal chief? She tried to speak in between her gasps. Moving even a muscle made pain flare through her body, but she pushed her hands against the throne and stood. She stumbled when she tried to take a step. Neo's body moved before his mind. He caught her. Hee, you still act like this. She looked into his eyes. Her deep gaze made Neo's heart beat faster. Those eyes, he remembered. The way she looked at him was all too familiar. A gaze filled with tender love. Neo gritted his teeth. He understood where he was. A nightmare. King Morgan chuckled and tenderly cradled his face with her bloodied hand. Why you are too kind, Neo. You can't see me die even in a nightmare. Her face was only a few inches away from his. As she spoke, her nails started to dig into his face. So why did you forget me? Why did you not try to search for me? After you reincarnated. You were dead already. Haha, are we using that excuse? You must have realized that I am a reincarnator. Even if I'm not, I am someone extraordinary. There was a high chance I am alive. Why did you try to forget me? Her nails started to draw blood from Neo's face. Her voice was no longer tender. It was filled with hatred, jealousy, and something darker. Was the love you showed me so weak that it was drowned by time? Or did you find someone else and decide to discard me? Tell me, Neo. When Neo remained silent, she started to chuckle. Chapter 423 Nightmares, Meeting Mother. It must be that woman, right? She is the one who stole you from me. You can stop now. Neo placed his hand over her hand. Her fingers were cold and trembling. King Morgan would never talk like this. Why wouldn't she? What woman won't get angry when the man she loved betrayed her? He made no move to stop her nails from digging into his skin. You aren't King Morgan. That's easy for you to say. If I'm not her, then who am I? My nightmare. Neo closed his mouth. She was his longing. He wanted to repay her for all she had done for him. You betrayed me. I learned to move on. So that's the excuse you will use for forgetting me. I never forget her, or anyone else. The memories of my past lives are still vivid within me. I hate you. Please don't say that with that appearance. Haha, your voice isn't even shaking, she said. Do you even feel anything seeing me die? The strength behind her nails slowly diminished. Her breathing grew weak. As they talked, her body eventually grew still, and she no longer moved. Neo remained still with King Morgan's corpse in his hands. He knew this place was a nightmare, and the King Morgan before him was a figment of his imagination. But it hurt. Losing her again made him feel that long-forgotten pain. Neo blinked, and the scene around him changed. He appeared in a desolate world. Maggots wriggled everywhere he turned. Giant thousand-eyed pillars stood in the distance. Something struck his abdomen. His body flew back and crashed into a giant boulder. What? He struggled to breathe. A giant maggot pressed him against the boulder. While Neo tried to resist the monsters, dozens of thin maggots attacked him. They crawled inside his skin and ate his nerves and muscles. Neo tried to generate world energy. But it was as if he was no longer a heavenbreaker. The giant maggot roared and flung him around. His body rolled against the cracked earth before coming to a stop eventually. He tried to stand. The pain from the maggots eating him from within turned his mind into a mess. They ate his energy and blood, making him feel as if he was being hollowed out. His situation was taking a turn for the worse quickly. The thousand-eyed pillars attacked. His head started to throb painfully. He was being assaulted by unimaginable physical and mental pain. Nonetheless, Neo moved. Why the fuck is my life so full of shit? He placed his hands on his knees and stood up slowly. The giant maggots were rushing towards him. He had to fight. No matter how much he was hurt, he couldn't rest. This was no time or place for that. He gritted his teeth and prepared to face the incoming attacks. The scene around him changed again. Neo appeared in an alleyway. A flickering streetlight was his sole companion in the night. He looked down. The tiny maggots eating from within disappeared. He was wearing different clothes, and there was no injury on his body. This place is where I asked the question about my bloodline curse from primogenitor. Suddenly, he heard a sob. Neo stiffened. He knew the identity of the voice. Mira. His mother's reincarnation. Fuck. Neo moved towards the source of the sound. This world was made from his nightmares. The last two nightmares changed after he confronted them. It made everything clear. He had to face his nightmares if he wanted to escape this world. It was easy to find Mira. She was alone in the house. Her knees were pulled against her chest. Tears slipped from her swollen eyes. Mother. Neo stood outside the house. He knew he had to face her. That was the only way to leave this nightmare. But he needed courage for that. Courage he didn't have. He had escaped when he heard her sobs back in his world. Her cries made his heart wrench. They were too painful. Fuck. His mother had saved him when he was dying after seeing the fourth vision of Sphinx. And yet here he was, afraid of meeting her. I'm fucking shit. He suppressed the trembling in his hands and rang the doorbell. Mira reacted instantly. Perhaps, she thought it was George, her boyfriend, who rang the doorbell. She wiped her tears and opened the door. Why you? She wiped her tears and opened the door. Why you? Hi, Neo said, trying to smile. I don't know if you remember, but I am, Mira shrieked. She swiftly moved back with a fear-stricken expression. Neo froze. Only then did he recall the medical report of Mira that Henry showed him. She had trauma from mystical monsters because of the labyrinth incident. Seeing him, the person at the center of that incident, triggered her memories. She began to hyperventilate. Mom, don't come near me. Mira slapped his hand away that was trying to support her. It took her a moment to realize what she had done. No matter how afraid she was, she understood who Neo Hargraves was. She couldn't insult a person of his standing. I'm sorry, she said while trying to stop herself from shaking like a leaf. It's okay. I was the one at fault for appearing without notice. Neo left. He walked without thinking and ended up stopping on a bridge. What am I even doing? He covered his face with both hands. The first nightmare with King Morgan ended after he spoke to her without hiding his emotions. The second nightmare of his battle with Velkaria ended when he decided to confront the maggots even though he was incredibly weak. The pattern was clear. He had to face his nightmares head on. But, it was easier said than done. The gaze of his mother, the one who saved him long ago and treated him gently, now looked at him with fear. It was as if she was staring at a monster. Fuck. I'm feeling like killing myself. Neo extended his senses. Unlike what happened in reality, Henry did not come to solve the misunderstanding. George, his father's reincarnation, was missing too. Without any support, Myra's mental state only got worse. I'm beating the shit out of that Tartarus asshole after I leave this place. Neo moved back to Myra's house. As much as he was reluctant to meet his mother, he needed to leave this place. He had to be quick. Elizabeth did not have much time left. Neo could not afford to be late due to a nightmare that wasn't real. He rang the doorbell. Mira was not as surprised as before when she saw him. Is there something you need? She questioned. It was a misunderstanding. Huh, Dad. I mean, George. He didn't cheat. The woman you saw was a healer. She came to fix up George after he was beat up in training. Neo's words brought an avalanche of information. It took Mira time to process all of it. How do you know that? She asked, gripping the door's handle with force. George must have sent you to cover for him. She stopped speaking, realizing that was impossible. Neo Hargraves was the heir of the Hargraves Corporation, the ruler of the first-year Demigod Academy students, the champion of shadows who cleared the Shadow Trial, and clan leader of the Great Clan of Death. He was not someone George could use as a shield. How do you know all about the affair? As I said, it was a misunderstanding, not an affair, Neo spoke, then added. Brother and I were keeping an eye on your family's situation. What? You are my mom, and George is my dad. At least, your original reincarnations are. That's why we kept an eye on you. We were worried about our parents. Mira blinked, stupefied. If she was surprised before, she was now stunned. Neo knew everything he said was not an easy pill to swallow. Mom. He took a step towards her. Mira retreated instinctively. What are you doing? Can you let me hold your hand? I want to prove what I said. Mira stared at his outstretched hand. She was still afraid of him. But his words were too shocking to ignore, and for some reason, she did not feel like he was trying to take advantage of her. She placed her hand over his palm lightly. Neo used intent to transfer Springbloom's blessing to her. The blessing healed Mira, physically and mentally. She was able to calm down and think clearly. This power, it feels familiar. It's my mother, the goddess of spring, Persephone's blessing. Mira opened her mouth and closed it. Neo chuckled. It's okay. Take your time. This type of information isn't something one can come to terms with in. Neo's surroundings changed. He had conquered his third nightmare. Where am I now? Neo noticed he was floating in space. Countless maggots were eating his body. His blessing repeatedly regenerated him, but the maggots did not stop. He grabbed them and crushed them. The maggots became fierce upon seeing his resistance. Chapter 424 Awakening Void Element. Neo tried to use world energy again, only for it to not respond. The same was true for Obidus. His blessings responded, but they were weakened. He brought his palms close. A tiny ball of lightning started to condense between them. He compressed it to the limit. The amount of death being forced into the tiny point distorted space. Neo ignored the maggots eating him and kept his focus on the task. He let the ball explode when it reached its maximum limit. Thousands of large red lightning bolts erupted from the attack. Everything in his vicinity was wiped out. Neo used the chance and condensed another ball of death, this time fusing his concept into it. He let it break. The power of the concept was much stronger than his normal attacks. Lightning larger than planets crackled in the space. It forced the maggots to sleep. As if to say his attack was a joke, more maggots arrived. Neo repeated his attacks, only for more maggots to arrive. It did not matter how many were forced into eternal sleep. Their numbers were endless. Neo kept fighting without a break. Time had long since become a blur to him. Slowly, doubts started to creep into his mind. Could he escape this place? Would he be forced to live his nightmare eternally again? Neo kept fighting the maggots without a break. His mind slowly entered a trance. The maggots, the emptiness. They were gnawing at his heart. He was being forced to relive his worst memories. But Neo didn't run. He embraced those memories. So this is a nightmare. It felt like he was reaching an epiphany. He had always known what a nightmare was. They were dreams that showed one a horrible sight. Though, living in this world showed him the true meaning of nightmare. It was fear. Neo's limbs were trembling. The nightmare was forcing him to look at his fear. Age, experience, mental resilience. Nothing could protect you from your fear. Neo moved his body on instinct. A black mist covered his hands. He grabbed the fabric of the world and tore it. The tear in the space was the size of a palm. He could see pitch black emptiness beyond. There, no maggot existed. Before Neo could enter that world, the torn space was stitched back. The world of nightmare had healed on its own. Neo looked at his hands. He ignored the maggots attacking him and heightened his focus. The power of nightmares. He was now capable of wielding it. However, his mastery was too low to use and brute force his way out of this world. He needed time to master the nightmare element. Time he didn't have. There was only one other way. Neo needed fear, and use it to learn the nightmare element. I have the perfect place to take fear from. He looked around at the maggots. He was afraid of them, but the true reason for his fear was something else. His memories of eternity. The seal on the memories made by his mother could be broken by a single thought of his. Perhaps, she made it this way, predicting Neo would need the memories one day. He dived into his mind. His soul trembled at the thought of breaking the seal on his memories. He grabbed it with a thought and crushed it. Fear, desperation, and agony flooded in. But there was something worse that the memories brought. The loneliness. The emptiness. His mind was being torn apart. The terror of the eternity made him shake like a leaf, and the emptiness he learned from it consumed everything. Emptiness was another name for void. There was no beginning or end. Just nothingness. His goals, passions, emotions, memories, personality, body, will to live, everything was becoming one with void emptiness. He was losing it all. No. No. Neo desperately searched for something. A goal. A fixation. Something that could overpower the emptiness that was growing within him. He forced his mind, frozen from fear, to move. Think. Something. He needed a goal so dear to him that nothing could take it from him. Power is your goal. Neo snapped his head towards the voices of darkness within his mind. They spoke to him as Neo lost them to emptiness. You wanted to be strong. That is why you never gave up. The voices disappeared as emptiness took over half of him. The thought remained. Power. His dream was to be the strongest. Christian and Leonora died because he was not strong enough. He manipulated Elizabeth into defeating the Temple of Void since he couldn't do it with his own strength. Cain was forced to sleep because he lacked the strength to kill anomaly number 79. He was weak and had to force his responsibilities on young Daniel in order to protect Athena, Kronos, Gaia, Zeus, Apollo, and others. He had to force Jack to leave Shadow World and ended up causing him mental scars since he was not strong enough to fight Velkaria while protecting Jack. He could not meet his parents, tell them that he missed them. He was too weak to remove the bloodline curse. Even now, when Elizabeth's time was at the end, he was here, in a world made from his nightmares, unable to escape due to his lack of strength. Every time his problems always had a simple solution. Every time he lacked that one thing. Power. He needed more of it. To be the strongest. To achieve his dreams. To cut down anything that stood in his way. Growing stronger had always been his obsession. When Neo came to his senses, he realized the power of void consuming him had lessened. He looked at his arms. His body was there. So was his soul and mind. He hadn't fallen to emptiness. So the only reason I couldn't stand eternity was because I lacked the obsession to overcome it. He was ready to live for eternity if that was what it took to be the strongest. Looking at his hand, Neo could see faint bubbles with purple suns within them and black mist floating around. Void and nightmare. His memories being unsealed allowed him to feel the fear that had once shaken him to the deepest part of his soul. It allowed him to increase his mastery of nightmare at an unprecedented speed. He tried to suppress the tremor in his limbs and used nightmare element again. Black mist covered his hands. He used nightmare element to grab the fabric of the world made from nightmares. Then, he pulled. Unlike before, a large tear appeared in the sky. The rate at which the tear was being stitched was too slow, and Neo entered it with ease. He felt as if he was falling. Neo's eyes shot open as he felt the force of the crash. He gasped and looked around. The ground beneath him was made from some unknown material. Neo scanned the area. His blessings were back to full power. He could generate world energy, and Obidus was with him. Neo, you are awake. Yeah, he replied. Do you know where we are or anything about the others? Since this place is the abyss of nightmares, they should have teleported to one of the random zones. For some odd reason, the sky and the boundaries of this world were too far. Neo could not see them with his intent vision. Such a large world would be at least stage -3. A zone, made from a world eaten by Tartarus, shouldn't be that big, since Tartarus was itself STAGE3, and there was no way it could defeat multiple worlds at the same stage as it without the inhabitants. Help. Something is wrong about this place. It felt dead, inverted, lifeless. Neo couldn't point a finger at the thoughts in his mind. Your friends. Obidus suddenly spoke to him. They are above. What? Above. Neo stared at the sky. Intent vision was like a sphere. He could see everything within the sphere. As for objects farther than that, he could not see them. The range of my intent vision should be the radius of a stage 2 planet. How high are they in the sky that I can't see them? Neo started to circulate his world energy in large amounts. He trusted Obidus' words and decided to jump as high as he could, trying to see where the others were. Funnily enough, Obidus didn't react like she used to. It made him feel as if she had gotten used to his praise. Reading his thoughts, she harumphed and became silent. Are you still angry about the last time? I didn't mean it the wrong way when I called you easy. Neo was exasperated. This pattern, he remembered it. Beelzebub had gone through a similar puberty. I'm not going through puberty. It was the fastest and the clearest reply he heard from Obidus. Stop analyzing my words. I just wanted to hear a sorry, and. She was embarrassed to say the next words. Neo could sense her emotions and understand what she wanted. My apologies, my lady. I said those words back then only to tease you. And yes, I do love you very much. Neo laughed. He could feel Obidus being happy, embarrassed, and a little angry at how he was poking fun at her. Okay. Okay, I'll stop now. He shifted his focus back to the task at hand. He directed the world energy towards his legs. His muscles exploded with power beyond limits, and he jumped. The space around him was torn open from the shockwaves created by his jump's residual energy. His body shot upwards like a bullet, rapidly climbing the altitude. He suddenly noticed objects hung from the sky and held by thick threads connected to their tops. The objects were familiar to him. They were the people who entered the abyss of nightmares with him. The Grand Expedition. Chapter 425 Threatening Dragon Clan Leaders. What the? Neo was dumbstruck. He wrapped his blade in death and darkness and slashed. The blade grew in length and struck the ropes connected to the heads of the people dangling in the sky. His sword bounced back. Before Neo could attack again, he started to fall under the effect of gravity. He landed on the ground. When I woke up just now, I crashed into the ground, and when I left the nightmare, I felt the sensation of falling, he said, staring at the sky. He couldn't see anyone up there from this distance, but he knew they were there. Judging from everything, everyone who was teleported to this area is under nightmares. The rope attached to their head will break if they manage to escape their nightmares. Neo frowned. Everyone was caught too easily. Why hadn't the Grand Expedition prepared for an ambush like this? Maybe this area was never found out by previous expeditions, so they never knew about this monster. But there is still something wrong. I'm pretty sure I was in a nightmare because Tartarus tried to kill me. Why did it put other members of the Grand Expedition in nightmares? Neo felt like he was missing a crucial piece of information. He shook his head, focusing on the task at hand. With another jump, he shot into the sky. Since I can't wait for everyone to come out of their nightmares, I will break the nightmares from the outside. He swung his sword with full force. Suddenly, thick, pointed vines descended from the sky and attacked Neo. He was forced to change his sword's path. The vines were hard to cut through. The force of the clash threw him back to the ground. Neo prepared to intercept another attack when he suddenly noticed the vines weren't attacking. They were hovering around the people dangling in the sky, protecting them. Whatever is creating nightmares has a defensive mechanism but not an active attack mechanism. Since he was inside a zone, Neo predicted the cause of the nightmares was a monster. It must be a strong monster if Tartarus threw him to it. Neo stared at the vines above. It will take a lot of time to cut them. They are strong. He decided to complete his preparations before rescuing those people. After all, he could tell they weren't in danger thanks to his death affinity. He could take time to rescue them. I'll search for Olivia and Apollo first. I need them to heal Elizabeth. Neo stopped speaking when he noticed something. His shadow space was empty. He swiftly opened it and entered the shadow space. Fuck. I should have known this would happen. Elizabeth, Velkaria, Veldora. Everyone was missing. It was the random teleportation that happens when we enter this place. It sent everyone to other locations. Neo massaged his head. Fuck. How could I not notice such a basic detail? If people inside the shadow space teleported together, the leaders of the Grand Expedition would have been carrying everyone inside their shadow space. They didn't do it as there was no reason. Whether inside shadow space or not, everyone would be targeted by random teleportation. Neo could feel his frustration rising. He didn't blame Kane. Kane might have not explained such basic details to him since he never expected Neo to carry someone in shadow space. It was Neo's mistake. He should have understood it. He should have questioned himself why the Grand Expedition was not using shadow space to carry people inside the abyss of nightmares. Ellipsis. Tartarus. Kane was on his way back after Neo and others entered the abyss of nightmares. His house was near the outskirts of Tartarus. Although he was near the Blood Sea, it was impossible to escape. The moment someone got too far from Tartarus, it would pull them back. Damn it, how did she sneak in? Kane's movement did not create any sonic booms. I'm home. He opened the door and entered. After washing his face, he sat on the sofa. Ava, bring the tea in the glamour glass. Kane sat up straight with an alert expression. Usually, Ava would bring him tea within minutes of his returning home. Ava. He couldn't find her. An ominous premonition crept into his heart. He expanded his senses to the limit, covering thousands of kilometers. Ava was missing. She didn't. Kane left the house and swiftly returned to the location of the abyss of nightmares. Knowing his daughter, she must have entered that place with the grand expedition. Damn it, how did she sneak in? Kane's movement did not create any sonic booms. He moved like a ghost and reached the location within minutes. The entrance of the abyss of nightmares, the giant tornado, was within his sight. Stop. A swarm of butterflies appeared and surrounded Kane. They formed a wall to stop him in his tracks. Kane stared at the butterflies. She was one of the 3 dragon clan leaders who stayed back. You aren't allowed to enter the abyss of nightmares, the voice echoed from all directions. Move, Adele. Kane. My daughter is missing. The butterflies stopped flying randomly. They floated in the same place, fluttering their wings rapidly. Did Avarice enter the abyss of nightmares? She asked cautiously. I'm afraid she did. You know her. The butterflies did not give a reply for a few moments. Kane, no matter what, you cannot be allowed to enter the abyss of nightmares. You don't need to worry about Avarice. The Blood Dragon clan and Zera will make sure to protect her, Adele said. Adele, Kane said in a low, threatening voice. His presence started to swell, reaching dangerous levels. Move. I'm afraid I can't do that. The reason I'm guarding this place is to make sure no danger enters the abyss of nightmares and backstabs the grand expedition. I don't care. Adele. Move. Kane's aura exploded. The butterflies were almost crushed instantly. They resisted his aura and remained firm in their decision. Kane, if this was before your trait was sealed along with your ability to use swords, you could have used force, but now it's useless. You can't force me aside. Kane gritted his teeth. Just as he was about to fight, another figure appeared. Wait. Kane. The man, another dragon clan leader, walked to Kane hurriedly. Are you seriously going to fight us here? Elijah, I don't want to harm you too. Stand out of my way. Wait. Just listen to me for a minute. Clan leader Elijah, you don't need to entertain him like this. Shut up, Adele. Elijah's desperate expression disappeared, and he glared at her. You weren't here when we fought the great disasters. Don't provoke him just because he can't use his swordsmanship. The butterflies had a lot to say. But they stayed silent. Elijah turned to Kane. Entering that place won't help you. If you go there, it will only throw the grand expedition into chaos. You should know how much everyone fears you. You can't expect me to stay here while my daughter. It will be fine. Zera is there, and so is the Blood Dragon clan, Elijah said. With their abilities, they will quickly realize Ava is there. They will protect her, Kane. They know how much she is worth to you. Before Kane could say anything, Elijah added. Just 1 month. They should be able to send Ava out of the abyss by then. You only need to wait for 1 month. If Ava isn't back by then, I will personally make sure no one tries to stop you from entering the abyss. Kane looked at Elijah with stern eyes before shifting his gaze to the entrance of the abyss of nightmares. The exit was hard to find inside the abyss, but it was not impossible. Usually, opening the exit took a lot of resources. The expedition would open the exit only when they needed to escape. But they should know Kane would storm inside if Ava wasn't sent back. 1 month. Just 1 month. Ava will be back within that time, Elijah said, trying to calm Kane. Ellipsis. Abyss of nightmares. Neo covered his face and forcefully calmed his thoughts. This was no time to get angry. He swiftly left his shadow space and used the blessing of Artemis. Tell me the location of Elizabeth. The blessing flared to life, and a path marked by silver motes of light appeared before him. He followed the markings. There was no obstacle on his path. No vegetation. No cliff. No monster. The entire land was barren. The feeling of something being wrong crossed his heart again. He ignored it and continued on his path. Quest. Save Elizabeth de Beaufort. Time remaining. 8 hours, 11 minutes. How far do I need to go? Neo had been running at full speed for days. He was starting to wonder if he would be able to reach his destination on time. What if he was too late? What if he couldn't save Elizabeth? He would fail again to protect those dear to him. Neo gritted his teeth and continued running at full speed. He had tried contacting space elementals for help, but it was useless. They, along with other elementals, did not respond. It was as if they had disappeared. Neo could not feel their presence. Chapter 426 The Truth About Abyss of Nightmares. Something was weird about this place. Quest. Save Elizabeth de Beaufort. Time remaining. 5 hours, 35 minutes. Neo's expression wasn't good. He was short on time, and he still had no idea where Elizabeth was. No matter how much he ran, he only saw barren land. Everywhere he went, the sky above was similar, with Grand Expedition members trapped in nightmares. The number of expedition members caught in nightmares reached millions by now, and it was climbing. The monotonous journey came to a stop when Neo suddenly sensed a huge amount of void element reaction in the distance. The location was at the edge of the range of his senses. He sped up, tearing apart air and space with each step. Just then, he sensed words. The world, an unnatural chill ran down his spine. The world around him underwent earth-shattering changes. Void elementals started to appear everywhere. The ground twisted and rotted. The air turned murky. Neo winced. The unnaturally high amount of void was affecting him. He had no choice but to pull back and go around the corrupted area. Soon, he realized something. Elizabeth's location was near the center of the corrupted area. She must be among the people caught in the nightmares in that place. Neo frowned. The world was a technique unique to gods. Only a void god could have deployed a world with an affinity to the void element. It might be Zera's world. But that doesn't change the fact that it's dangerous to me. Neo gritted his teeth. Although Zera's void affinity was so high that it affected him, he had no choice. He rushed into the corrupted area. The air inside was pungent, filled with void elementals. Neo felt like stones were being pushed into his veins. He used his blessings along with holy and life elements to heal himself as he approached the center of the corrupted area. His abilities were far from enough to counter Zera's element, but maybe because he was a heavenbreaker, it was not too deadly for him. He could withstand her world with some trouble. A powerful roar erupted far ahead of him. Neo kept running forward and saw it. A humongous mass of deformed flesh hovered in the air. It roughly looked like a dragon, with 2 wings, a tail, and a powerful presence unique to dragons. The monster was at least twice the size of the moon. It flapped and roared again before flying towards the sky. Then, Neo saw a sight that stunned him. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of giant vines descended from the sky. They wrapped around each other and formed a spear larger than the corrupted dragon. The spear pierced through the dragon's chest and pinned it to the ground. The impact was catastrophic. The ground shattered, shockwaves erupted, and stones, the size of mountains, flew around. The vines returned to their location after defeating the dragon. Its body was torn apart from being smashed into the ground. A giant hole was visible in its chest. Neo could feel the void world around him flickering. Zera, injured, could not maintain it. She, the dragon, stood up with a stagger and roared again. It was as if the injury in her chest did not matter. Just then, Zera sensed a presence near her. She snapped her neck towards the side and noticed Neo. She froze. Then, instantly, she morphed into human form and flew towards Neo. Purple veins wriggled on his skin. Zera realized her void world was affecting him and retracted it. The void elementals disappeared from the air, and Neo could relax. Thanks, he said, breathing heavily. How did you wake up? Zera asked as she tried to keep her voice steady. Her figure was riddled with injuries. Her hair was half burnt, half covered in mud. Her left arm was barely attached, thanks to a string of muscle. If not for it, Neo suspected her arm would have fallen long ago. Small cuts were present all over her. Purple blood oozed from them. And, just below her chest, there was a large hole, almost spilling her guts. She held them with her hands and stared at Neo. I conquered my nightmare, he said. You don't look okay. Are you worried about me? She asked while trying to let out a flirtatious smile but failed miserably. While her injuries were not fatal for someone of her rank, they were serious. Zera struggled to stand straight. Neo created a simple chair out of mimicked earth and helped her sit. What's this? You know quite a few tricks, she said. Can you heal on your own? He asked, instead of answering. I can, but it will take time. How about you help me with your essence? Neo's brow twitched. Did she have to put it like that? I can help you, but remember that you are far stronger than me, so healing you is almost out of my league. And since you use void element as your main element, your body has been fused with a large amount of void element over the period of time. Holy element will hurt you a lot and damage you too, Neo said. What about mimicked holy element? She questioned. Can you use that? My shadow element mastery is only expert. So, no, I can't create a mimicked holy element powerful enough to heal you. Zera chuckled. She could see Neo was seriously trying to think of a way to heal her. Forget about it if it's hard. My natural vitality will heal me. How long would that take? A few weeks only. Neo nodded and looked above. He could see the trail created by silvery motes of light leading to the sky. That was Elizabeth's location. Is there someone you know there? Zera asked. Yes, Neo answered and lowered his head. What is this place? And why are so many Grand Expedition members caught by the ambush? Zara chuckled when she heard him. In that laugh, Neo sensed something else. Something he was quite used to. Despair. It seems you haven't realized what is happening, dear. Quote ellipsis question mark quote. Those people up there are proceeding to conquer the abyss of nightmares. We are here because the abyss of nightmares couldn't contain us, and it decided to throw us out. Well, in my case, that was what happened. But I suppose you managed to escape the abyss yourself. Her words only confused Neo. It's fine if you don't understand it. I also found out about this only a few hours ago. She pointed at the sky. Those people are inside a collective nightmare. It's a connected dream. That fake dream is called the abyss of nightmares. Neo completed her words. The hair on his back stood as he understood the implications of her words. You are correct, Zara smiled. From everything I can see here, it looks like every expedition that entered this place was always caught by the abyss of nightmares. They thought they were clearing zones, fighting monsters, making progress, but that was all a hoax. A dream. It was all a nightmare. Zara noticed Neo's expression as she spoke. I know it's hard to believe. But I'm sure of it. She looked to the side. I've traveled this place for days. There are no zones here, no floors, nothing. Only that giant tree, and the vines that grow out of the tree are connected to the heads of those who are inside the nightmare. She looked at the humongous tree in the distance. It was large. Zara suspected it was larger than a star system. Her injuries and mental exhaustion lowered her mental defenses and allowed Neo to read her intent. He saw the giant tree from her memories. The tree was outside his intent vision range, which was why he never saw it, but for anyone with normal vision, the tree was visible from all locations. If what you are saying is true, then, how did no one in the previous expedition realize they were inside a nightmare? Neo questioned. How are you so sure that no one realized it? Zara questioned with a smirk. Because I never heard someone warning me about such a big detail. It's quite obvious no one knew about it. That's where you are wrong, and right, dear. Zara continued. I told you, didn't I? I was too strong, and the abyss of nightmares couldn't contain me. That's why it threw me out. I suspect the same happened with other leaders of previous grand expeditions. How? If that happened, then those leaders would have. Neo stopped speaking. He realized what Zara was implying. The Dragon Clan leaders who died during the grand expedition. Were they killed after they left the abyss of nightmare and appeared in this place? Neo looked at the sky above again. Everyone was caught in a nightmare. If Tartarus wanted to kill them all, this was the easiest opportunity it could get. But there was no indication that Tartarus was trying to kill them. Then, why were previous expedition members killed? You are absolutely right, Zara said as if she had read his thoughts. Some of the Dragon Clan leaders who participated in the previous grand expedition must have been able to escape the abyss of nightmares. They must have helped a few other members escape too. Tartarus killed only those who escaped the abyss of nightmares and became aware of its true identity, Zara explained. Neo frowned. Her words made sense. If everything you said is correct, it means Tartarus never took any one of you seriously, he said. It killed anyone who became aware of its true identity. That shows it's quite strong. There was another thing Neo noticed. Chapter 427 Choice of Void Dragon God. There was another thing Neo noticed. If Tartarus was so strong, then why was it trying to hide the truth about the abyss of nightmares? How is Tartarus killing them? Neo mumbled to himself. You don't know? Zara asked, surprised. She took deep breaths to stabilize her condition and kept her hands on her abdomen to stop her entrails from spilling as she spoke. When did you wake up from the nightmares? 2 days ago. How did you do that? Neo suddenly became silent. From what she told him, everyone was inside a collective nightmare. They were having the same dream and could meet each other in that dream. But Neo, he had been in an entirely different nightmare alone. Tartarus must have done that to end me and to make sure no one can help me. When he remained silent, Zara chuckled. It's fine if you don't want to reveal it. Everyone has a trump card or two that they keep hidden. What I want to know, though, is something else. How have you been surviving for 2 days? The energy recovery must be a problem for you, she said. Huh. Neo frowned. Energy recovery problem. Zara stared at Neo, wondering why he was trying to act clueless. It took her a few moments to realize Neo was serious. You, what are you? She spoke, surprise leaking into her voice for the first time. This place is near Tartarus core. All energy and elementals here belong to Tartarus. It doesn't want us to recover. Thus, We can't absorb the ambient energy in the air to recover our energy reserves. Eating energy-rich food is an option, but that would mean you realize you can't absorb energy from the air. How did you not know that? She questioned. I am used to recovering my energy from devouring the food inside my shadow space, not from the air. That's why I didn't realize it, he said with a calm tone. That's a lie, Zara said instantly. Could it be that? She looked Neo up and down as if she was evaluating him. Neo tensed, ready to escape at a moment's notice. Cain had warned him the Dragon Clan leaders might attack him if they found out he was a Heavenbreaker. Since they don't have any place to draw energy from except food or natural treasures that are rich in energy, they might try to use me as a battery. There was no doubt the expedition must have stocked up on energy-rich food and materials. But a Heavenbreaker was special. Neo's energy purity was off the charts. His current energy purity was on par with a stage -1 world. Gods could never match that, since they were inherently weaker than worlds at their same rank. A paragon demigod, stage -1 god, and stage -1 world were at the same rank, technically. However, demigod was the weakest. The reason being their low energy purity and low element mastery. Stage -1 god had element mastery at the same rank as stage -1 world, but their energy purity was much lower than the world's. Stage -1 world had both high element mastery in multiple elements and high energy purity. It would take multiple stage -1 gods joining hands to fight a stage -1 world. I might be lower rank than Zara, but my energy purity must be far higher than anything the expedition could have brought. I need to be careful. Neo remained alert. Zara was injured badly. If she attacked him, Neo should be able to escape. He wasn't sure though. After all, Zara was a stage 3 god, which equaled a fabled rank demigod. You have a sacred treasure with the ability to provide energy, right? Zara spoke. Sacred treasures have unique and arbitrary abilities. The only way something as absurd as having its own energy will make sense. I said I consumed food. Then you must have a lot of food in your shadow space. Can you show it to me? Neo clicked his tongue. Having a sacred treasure like that would garner him attention, and maybe jealousy. He wanted to say he did not have anything like that, but Zara seemed sure of her guess. Let's not digress, Neo said. Are you sure the expedition members who died during past expeditions did so due to lack of energy? That's my only guess for now. I see, Neo nodded. Rest for now. I have to do something. Neo prepared to jump into the air. According to the moon's blessing, Elizabeth was above. What are you doing? Zara questioned. Someone I know is there. Stop. Just before Neo could jump, Zara's hand transformed into a giant hand and grabbed him. The giant hand was a deformed mass of flesh, similar to her dragonized form. She held him with force to make sure he couldn't move. What are you doing? Neo asked the same question as her. Take a look at my condition, Zara said, trying to ignore the burning pain in her body. I am a stage 3 god, and I look half dead after trying to rescue people from the nightmares. I haven't saved a single person. You think you can do that? She asked. Let me go, Neo said, instead of replying. Zara could feel the threatening undertone in Neo's words. She looked above and then back at him. That white-haired child up there. She isn't a member of the Grand Expedition. Is she the one you are trying to save? Neo blinked, confused. Child. Who was she talking about? Zara was a stage 3 god. She must be a few thousand years old. No wonder she called Elizabeth a child. Dear, are you thinking something rude? She asked with a smile, while flexing the muscles of her transformed hand, as if saying she could crush him if he called her old. Yes, I want to save her, Neo said to change the topic. I can see why, Zara said. She has been corrupted by Void and doesn't have long to live. She chuckled and let Neo go before transforming into her dragon form. I'll bring her down. What? Neo suddenly noticed a detail he had forgotten. Why had Zara been trying to rescue someone from the nightmares? She herself told Neo that those in nightmares were safe, and those who escaped nightmares would be killed by Tartarus. Saving someone from the nightmare was stupid. Did you get those injuries while trying to save Elizabeth? Chapter 428 Choice of Void Dragon God 2. Who knows? She flapped her wings and flew towards the sky at breakneck speed. Neo was frozen in surprise. She was acting too friendly until now. Was that her real personality? No, there was no way she was stupid enough to put herself in harm's way for someone she saw just now. Elizabeth being here and her not being a part of the expedition must have made it clear she was with me and others from my world. She has no connection to the grand expedition. Why is Zara trying to save her? Kindness. Compassion for a fellow person trapped within the nightmare. A powerful roar erupted in the sky as the vines smashed Zara into the ground again. Stop this, Neo said. I don't need your help. Haha. Now you are just being stubborn, she said, as she staggered and tried to force her body up. Her limbs trembled, and blood leaked out of her injuries in large quantities. If you really want to save her, shouldn't you ask for my help? I'm hundreds of times stronger than you. And you are also injured. Keep this up, and you won't know when you died. A shockwave erupted before Neo could complete his words. Zara took off to the sky. Her eyes were fixed on Elizabeth's figure. The vine spear descended from the sky again and attacked Zara. Neo, unable to watch longer, jumped up. A powerful force slammed him into the ground before he could move higher. What are you doing? He asked. Zara did not answer him. She flew through the sky while dodging the vines and used her air affinity to make sure Neo could not come up. Her intentions were clear. She was making sure Neo was not injured. He gritted his teeth. Although he wanted to shout that he didn't need her help, he knew this was no time to be stubborn. He needed Zara's help to rescue Elizabeth. Use your world. Don't worry about me. I have a way to survive that. Zara turned her head slightly, looking down at Neo. Her eyes seemed to be looking into his soul. As a clan leader, Zara had always been caring about people under her. Elizabeth, now with them, was a member of the Grand Expedition too. Zara believed it was her duty as a leader to protect everyone who was her subordinate. If Tyr was here, he would have scolded me for putting a single member's life over my own, Zara chuckled inwardly. Zara, Neo shouted again. Use your world. Zara understood she did not have time to hold back, especially when she was already injured. She decided to trust Neo and that he had an ace up his sleeve. The world. A huge domain formed around Zara, the size of a stage 2 planet. Normally, awakeners could transform their energy, mana, divine energy, into elementals inside their core. This caused their techniques to have a delay. However, gods were not held back by such weakness. The world allowed them to transform the area around them into their territory. They could create elemental energy with no delay inside the world. Humongous purple tornadoes erupted in the sky. They spiraled towards the vine spear, attacking it. Zara roared and increased the output of her world. The void elementals in the air started to corrupt the vine spear. She used the moment of opportunity and passed the vine spear. Her form flew higher into the sky. Suddenly, another new vine attack flew down towards her head from the sky. She was a moment too late to react. Just when Zara thought she would be hit back to the ground, she sensed the time elementals around her rapidly decreasing. Her eyes widened, and she looked below. A caterpillar rested on Neo's shoulder. The tiny fellow was devouring the time elementals like a black hole. However, it barely slowed the vines. They were too strong, and the caterpillar couldn't snatch too much time from them. Thank you, dear, Zara roared. The vines had slowed, even if barely. They brought Zara enough time to react. Neo had brought Zara enough time to react. She roared and used corrupted wind to throw the vines off track and reached Elizabeth. Thousands of vines started to descend from the sky. It was as if they had been angered. Zara did not wait for them to reach her location and grabbed the vine attached to Elizabeth's head using her mouth. She tore it with a powerful tug. Then, she descended from the sky at quick speed. She crash-landed, unable to descend properly due to her injuries. Get ready. They might attack now that we rescued a person forcefully. Zara stopped speaking when she noticed the vines did not follow her back to the ground. They hovered in the sky, angry, but that was all. Zara. Neo rushed towards her. Transform back into your human form. A size like this takes too much energy to maintain. Zara followed his words and morphed into her human figure. She was covered in blood and injuries. Her form looked more similar to a half-decayed corpse than a living person. She coughed and could barely stand. Neo created a simple bed with mimicked elements and laid her on it. He did the same for Elizabeth. You are quite reckless, Neo said. Isn't there something else you should say? She smirked. Thank you, and rest now, Neo said. As much as he wanted to heal Zara, he couldn't do that. Not only was he weak, but his holy element would also worsen her injuries. If he had very high mastery in holy, he might have been able to heal her without degrading her condition too much, but his mastery in holy and life elements was pathetically low. I feel like shit, he thought, gritting his teeth. She helped me without asking for anything, and I can't alleviate her pain. Zara tried to sit up after a few minutes. Cough, cough. Wait, Don't move now. It's okay. She smiled and waved her hand, trying to assure Neo. Dragons, and dragon gods at that, are much more durable than you think. Her barely attached arms said otherwise. Chapter 429 Heavenly Talent. She ignored Neo and turned to check Elizabeth's condition. Her brows furrowed. The void corrupting Elizabeth's soul and body was weak. But too much time had passed, and the corruption had reached too deep. Zara could remove the corruption. However, she doubted it would be enough to save Elizabeth. Currently, Elizabeth's situation could be compared to a patient whose body was destroyed by a virus. Zara could eliminate the virus. Though doing so did not heal Elizabeth. You can't heal her? Neo asked from the side. I can't, Zara said, pulling out the void corruption from Elizabeth with a simple tug. What about you? You were trying to hurry and take her out from the nightmares. You must have a way to heal her. No. Neo remained silent. He did have a way. Everwitch Violet. But I have this. He brought out the flower from his shadow space. Zara's eyes widened slightly. Where did you find something so precious? That flower is so hard to find that everyone believes it only exists in stories. I had an acquaintance give it to me. His answer made it clear he didn't want to share its origin. Zara followed his lead and changed the topic. Are you hesitating because you don't want to make her immortal? Something like that, Neo replied. I'll enter her subconsciousness and ask for her permission to use the flower. He walked up to Elizabeth's bed and sat next to her, grabbing her palm. Zara stared at him with a complicated expression. Reading her intent, Neo realized she was confused why he was asking for Elizabeth's permission. Do you really need someone's permission to save them? I don't think they will blame you if you use the cure without their permission, Zara asked. Do you really need someone's permission to save them? I don't think they will blame you if you use the cure without their permission, Zara asked. Neo noticed the weird nuance behind her words. It was almost as if she was talking about someone else, not Elizabeth. He remained silent, using it to answer her. Zara stood up. She didn't understand his choice, but she decided to help him. Her hand, working hand, held Elizabeth's other hand, and she closed her eyes, chanting. Infinitely small magic circles appeared around Elizabeth's head. Neo sensed Elizabeth's mental defense weakening and realized what Zara was doing. Thanks, he said and entered Elizabeth's mind. Unlike last time, there was no barrier protecting Elizabeth's consciousness. Zara's magic had made his job easy. His body became limp, and his head fell on the bed. Despite that, he held Elizabeth's hand tightly. Save her, Neo. We need her, Zara muttered. She stared at Elizabeth's face. It was so similar to hers. There was no way the similar appearance was a coincidence. Elizabeth must be related to her. Zara closed her eyes, trying to calm her trembling heart. She decided to do something else and divert her thoughts before her emotions overflowed. She blinked, and her iris changed to silvery white. No matter how many times I see this, I can't believe someone like her exists. Her raw talent is the highest I've ever seen. Her eyes returned to their previous state. The silvery eyes were her unique ability. With her raw talent, she should already be as strong as us Dragon Clan leaders, if not stronger. Why is she only an exalted? Questions overflowed. Did she not have time to train? Or was she not given resources to train? That had to be impossible. Anyone would squander countless resources to nurture someone as talented as Elizabeth and have her on their side. In her long life, Zara had not seen anyone as talented as Elizabeth. Zara was someone who came to Tartarus a few hundred years ago. She had traveled the cosmos, met many people, conquered countless dangers. She could confidently say no one, absolutely no one, could compare to Elizabeth's raw talent. So why was she so weak? 30 years for someone like her was enough for them to reach stage 3 god, our fabled rank awakener. Was she lazy and didn't train? Zara found that hard to believe. One's body said a lot about them. Elizabeth had tiny scars, almost imperceptible, all over her arms, back, and legs. Her palms were slightly rough. For awakeners, their bodies improved every time they ranked up. Their physical appearances would keep on improving, and they would be healed. It was said ranking up was better medicine than all life and holy magic. Having scars, even if small and almost invisible, and rough hands showed Elizabeth had fought so much and been injured so much that even ranking up couldn't heal all her injuries. We need someone like her. It's already clear why the previous Dragon Clan leaders couldn't defeat Tartarus. There is a high chance Tartarus has more tricks up its sleeves. If she can be healed, we might have a powerful hidden ace ourselves. It was absurd that she had to depend on improvised plans. But the truth about the abyss of nightmares had hit too hard and destroyed all their previous plans. Save her, Neo. We don't have the luxury to fail, or Tartarus will devour us all. Elizabeth's consciousness. Neo opened his eyes. He looked around and saw the lush green prairie, the clear sky, and the bright sunshine. He couldn't help but chuckle seeing his condition. His body was no different than before, a flickering mass of light. Zara weakened Elizabeth's mental defense, but she is still so strong that I can't manifest here properly. He noticed Elizabeth sleeping peacefully on his lap pillow. She had a serene expression on her face. Neo combed his hands through her hair tenderly. A smile appeared on his face. Her mental world isn't as dark as before. Stopping her nightmares seems to have improved her mental condition by a lot. As he spoke to himself, Elizabeth moved slightly, and her eyebrows fluttered open. She looked at Neo. Miss Guardian Fairy. Neo almost laughed when he saw Elizabeth saying those words with an innocent expression. It was a surprise to see her making a face that was not cold. Ahem. Yes, my child. Why are you here? I came to meet you and complete our promise. As he spoke, he consciously kept combing his hand through her hair tenderly. Chapter 430. Asking for permission. The promise that I will live. Yes, I wanted to know if you want me to complete the promise. Quote ellipsis question mark quote. You will live, but for eternity. Neo's uplifted mood was plunged into the depths of an icy ocean. He realized he hadn't been able to help Elizabeth. Sure, he was trying to save her, but she would be forced to live for eternity. If he was to believe Ava, Elizabeth would never die after consuming the Everwitch Violet. He could use his concept to kill her. Though that didn't change the fact that he had failed to find a no-risk method for Elizabeth. Neo bit his lips. He never succeeded. Every time when it counted, he failed to make a change. Are you all right, Miss Guardian Fairy? Elizabeth held Neo's hand and squeezed it lightly after sensing his downcast mood. He smiled, trying to put up a front. I've never been better than now, child, he said. Now, do you want me to save you? Or would you rather that I do not do that? Elizabeth didn't answer immediately. She seemed to be in deep thought. Neo was a bit surprised when he didn't sense malicious emotions from her. Are you not angry at me? For what? I tricked you. I told you I would save you, but now, I came to tell you that there is a condition attached. That doesn't change how I feel. I'm happy that Miss Guardian Fairy came to meet me again. Again, Neo was surprised to see her, the tyrant, talk so innocently. He wondered if she would act the same in real life after he revealed he had been the Miss Guardian Fairy, not that he was planning to do that. What is eternity? She asked after thinking about it for a long time. Is it something scary? Eternity isn't scary or comforting. It's all-consuming. Neo could have sugar-coated his words. He should have sugar-coated his words. But he wanted Elizabeth to know what eternity was. Receiving a yes from her to save her wouldn't matter if he had to trick her by lying about eternity. All-consuming. As long as you have a desire, you will find eternity beautiful. When you have nothing left, no goal, no aspiration, eternity will become a cage. Neo continued. That's why eternity is all-consuming. You have to keep giving it your goals to devour. As long as your mountain of goals doesn't end, eternity will be a peaceful voyage. And when your mountain of goals is completely devoured, and eternity has nothing left to eat, it will turn to you and feast on you instead, Neo explained. He wondered if his explanation was hard to understand for Elizabeth. Do you want to live for eternity, child? Elizabeth thought about the answer. She fiddled with Neo's hand and pondered over his words. I have a goal, she said. I want to live, to see happiness, to see what lies beyond the world I've lived, and has been forced to live. I want to meet my daughter and hug her. I want to meet Neo and thank him. I want to meet Master and tell her I was happy to have someone like her in my life, and, she stopped. A lump seemed to have formed in her throat. Neo waited for her. I want to meet Clara and Paul and apologize to them. You didn't do anything. I wronged them, Elizabeth said, not waiting for Neo to speak. I trusted my decisions and believed my choices were the best. I thought I had seen the cruelty of the world, and only by returning cruelty to it would they let my children and I live in peace. I thought absolute violence was the answer to all questions. She took a deep breath and said, I forced my choices on my children and my people. It was my fault. That's why I need to apologize. Neo remained silent. It was Elizabeth's choice, and she had clearly put a lot of thought into it. And after everything, I want to travel. Travel. Yes, Master used to tell me that the world is big and there are a lot of things to see, things that would amaze me, and maybe make me happy. I couldn't do that before. There was no time for it. I was the queen of my country. But I think I can do it now, she said. Neo froze when he heard her. If Elizabeth wanted to travel, why hadn't she done that after she left her country and instead came to the academy? She did that for Neo and Amelia. Since the beginning, Elizabeth only lived for others. Only now was she starting to live for herself. I have heard your choice, child. Neo patted her head and decided to return to the outside world. Just before he disappeared, Elizabeth held his hand tightly and stopped him from leaving. Will we meet again? She asked. I will always watch over you and protect you. He had, of course, no intention of revealing he was the guardian fairy. Nobody liked to expose their true selves. He doubted Elizabeth would want him to see her past. That wasn't what I asked. His figure broke into countless fragments of light. Elizabeth tried to grab them and stop him, but he left. Neo opened his eyes with a groan. What did she say? Zara asked from the side. We can use the Everwitch Violet, Neo answered. He grabbed the flower. You know how to use it? Zara questioned. Somewhat, he replied honestly. I need to pull out the flower's essence and insert it into her. I don't know what to do after that. I see. Zara nodded. I don't know how to use the flower either. If Ava was here, maybe that could have changed. But you are alone in this now. Neo nodded. He held the flower in his hand, and pulled its essence out with his will. The flower started to wilt while a purple mass of misty energy condensed in the air. Chapter 431 Becoming Her World. The mass of energy grew larger and thicker. Neo controlled it to enter Elizabeth's body. The amount of energy was high, and it was hard to control. He had to do it slowly. Minutes turned into hours while he continued. Nothing changed. When he started to wonder if he was doing something wrong, something astonishing happened. The flow of essence into Elizabeth became automatic. It was as if the essence realized who its master was and began to enter Elizabeth. Neo should have been happy. Unfortunately, things took a sudden turn for the worse. Elizabeth's body started to crumble and disintegrate. Neo's eyes widened, and he moved quickly to stop the flower. But Zara stopped him first. That's how the flower works. Don't try to stop it. It's killing her. What do you mean that's how the flower works? Her soul, body, and seed of existence are disappearing. It's impossible to revive from that state. Just watch. Neo listened to her after reading her intent. It took only a few moments for Elizabeth's soul, body, and seed of existence to completely disintegrate. What was left behind was the purple energy she had absorbed. It floated into the air and started to take shape. The shape roughly resembled Elizabeth. Then, under Neo's astonished gaze, her seed of existence started to materialize. That's bad news, Zara suddenly said, narrowing her eyes. I had heard using the Everwitch flower makes you go through rebirth, but I didn't expect this type of rebirth. Quote ellipsis dot question mark quote. Her connection to her world has been broken. And she can't make the connection again since Tartarus blocks all types of connection to the outside. Everyone needs to have a connection to a world. If she can't connect to her previous world, then she will connect to Tartarus. Neo completed her words. He frowned. It was indeed bad news. He shifted his focus to Zara and contemplated. Should he try it? As a Heavenbreaker, he was similar to a world. Technically, he should be able to make a connection with others similar to how a world does with its inhabitants. Neo had no idea how to do it, and he wondered if doing that in front of Zara was safe. It might reveal his identity as a Heavenbreaker. There was no time to consider, though. Elizabeth was starting to form a connection with Tartarus. Neo activated his crownless king trait. He felt a thread of energy flow out of his hands and enter the mass of energy that looked like Elizabeth. It dissolved into her and became a part of her essence. Bond successfully formed. Bond major, 1 right pointing arrow 2, bond minor, 0, skill. Resilience, shared growth. Imperial decree, resilience. You can survive in the harshest of environments, and your ability to adapt to foreign or hostile environments is boosted greatly. Skill gained from bond. Velkaria, shared growth. You grow stronger as long as your bond grows stronger. Inherent skill of crownless king. Works only on bond major. Imperial decree. Your allies are more likely to follow your orders, whether out of fear or out of respect. Skill gained from bond. Elizabeth de Beaufort. Neo could tell his bond with Elizabeth was on a deeper level than his bond with Velkaria. It was as if Elizabeth's existence now depended on him. Elizabeth started to heal rapidly. Her seed of existence materialized completely, her soul reformed piece by piece, and her body regrew. Neo frowned as he stared at her floating form. Something was wrong. He quickly realized the problem. Elizabeth was unawakened. She must have lost her rank after being corrupted by void and being reborn. His surprise only increased when Elizabeth started to suck energy directly from him. He winced. It was as if Elizabeth would tap into his energy reserve. He felt he could stop the flow of energy leaving him, but he didn't do it. Getting sucked like this was a first for him. However, he knew he needed to do this to help Elizabeth. She began to use the energy to make consecutive breakthroughs. Grade 5 awakened. Grade 4 awakened. Grade 3 awakened. Grade 2 awakened. Grade 1 awakened. Mythic rank. Empyrean rank. Neo had trouble believing the scene before him. It was so astonishing that he forgot how he was rapidly losing energy to support Elizabeth's breakthroughs. To rank up, one needed to train their unique skill trait. Depending on talent, your unique skill could rank up after 1 use or after 100 uses. Was Elizabeth's talent so high that she ranked up even without using her unique skills? Or, it's experience. She already has experience of using her skills, so they are leveling up quickly. It did not reduce his surprise. Elizabeth's skills and elemental masteries were rising at the same time. Gaining understanding of skills and elements was like walking through a maze for most people. Reaching the end of the maze meant mastering skills and elements. Some people would get lost in the maze, some would get lucky and reach the end without stepping into wrong paths too many times. The second type of people were those who ranked up. But it also meant their ranking up had been a mixture of hard work and luck. Had they stepped into the wrong path in the maze, they wouldn't have reached the end quickly. Neo was different. He had no luck or talent. He would step into the wrong path countless times. This was why his progress was slow. However, it also meant that when he tried to clear the maze again, he would do so at an extremely fast pace. Unlike him, others would take more time, since they had avoided detours last time by luck, and they didn't know how to differentiate wrong paths from right paths. This was why Neo regained his masteries quickly after giving them to Daniel. Elizabeth was the same as Neo, yet different. Like him, she had learned to differentiate between wrong and right paths, but unlike him, she had talent too. 5 minutes was all it took for Elizabeth's elemental masteries to reach Savon, and for her to become a peak grade 5 primogenitor. Neo had no time to be shocked. A swell of power surged within him. Chapter 432 Gravity, Space, Blood, and Water. Each time Elizabeth made a breakthrough, he sensed the power within him grow. He had been forcing it down, knowing it was too much. But the moment Elizabeth reached grade 1 Paragon, the power became too much for him to handle. He let it go. Intense heat surged within him. His skin turned scorching hot, and his muscles started to twitch wildly. Neo realized his stats were rising, probably from the shared growth subskill of the Crownless King trait. Since Elizabeth had grown from an unawakened to grade 1 Paragon, he gained a huge amount of stats. He closed his eyes, focusing. The rush of stats was threatening to drown him. His bones cracked, and his skin split. His body had no time to adjust to so much power. Neo felt he would break. He had to use his Springbloom blessing and life and holy elements to keep healing himself. When the rush of energy stopped, Neo was left drenched in sweat, and breathing heavily. He used his intent vision to sense the state of his body and he was surprised pleasantly. His stats seemed to have been doubled. It would be a good time if you could help me now, Zara spoke, seeing Neo's condition had stabilized. What is happening? Neo asked. Elizabeth had stopped ranking up after reaching grade 1 Paragon, probably because Neo was only a Paragon 2. However, her elemental masteries were rapidly increasing. They had reached mid-supreme rank and showed no sign of stopping the growth. Elizabeth was drowning in a huge mass of water. The gravity around her had grown dozens of times, and Zara's blood moved wildly under the effect of Elizabeth's blood affinity. Take care of her, Zara said and moved back. She had been making sure Elizabeth didn't kill herself with her rapidly increasing powers. Unfortunately, Zara was injured, and forcibly slowing Elizabeth's progress took a toll on her. Thanks, I will take it from here. Neo took the brunt of Elizabeth's sanctuary. He felt as if a planet had been placed on his back. The gravity was crushing him. His feet sunk into the ground. His body refused to move as he lost control over his blood. It moved to a strange tune. Elizabeth was doing it all unconsciously, but it was enough to affect Neo. Gravity, space, blood, and water. Elizabeth's elements were moving in an uncontrolled manner. They were harming her too, and since she was unconscious, she couldn't control them. Neo used his eternal sleep concept to calm Elizabeth's blood. It targeted only some parts of her blood and put them to sleep. It slowed her blood flow to a normal level, putting her out of immediate danger. Needless to say, Neo's elemental mastery was lower than Elizabeth's. The only reason his attacks worked was due to his high strength that dwarfed Elizabeth's. Her body was immensely strong as a grade 1 paragon. It could withstand the crushing force of the gravity. While Neo would have loved to help, he didn't have anything to reduce the gravity's force. "I'll take care of it," Zara said. If it was only a single element, she could hold it back without putting too much pressure on herself. Magic circles appeared around her. Neo could sense the force field of gravity weakening. The only element left was water. Elizabeth was floating in the center of a large water body. The water was entering her lungs. She couldn't drown as a mermaid. But the water could crush her lungs from the inside, especially because the insides were where everyone's defense was the weakest. Neo used his Aqua Nihil concept of water affinity. The water around him started to disappear. His water affinity mastery was far weaker than Elizabeth's mastery. Although he should have been able to match her due to having a higher rank, even though his mastery was lower than hers, in the end, his concept was pushed back. Since the elements clashing were of the same nature, the elemental mastery mattered more than the difference in personal ranks. Neo clenched his teeth and used void. Beads of sweat rolled down his body as purple bubbles with tiny purple suns within them appeared around him. Void by itself could do nothing. But when combined with other elements, it could create wonders. Corrupting water with void turned water into an existence that repelled water. He used his void affinity to corrupt the giant water body drowning Elizabeth. The water body started to disappear. Neo and Zara continued their efforts until Elizabeth's elemental masteries stopped growing. Thankfully, Neo's water affinity mastery also grew along with Elizabeth's water mastery, although his lagged behind quite a bit. It was how he was able to save her from drowning herself. He guessed the reason behind his growth was the shared growth skill that brought him benefits from Elizabeth. After Elizabeth's energies calmed down, her elementals returned to normal. Zara and Neo stopped, and Elizabeth's body descended at a slow pace. Neo held her. He created clothes for her using the Shadow Robe spell and checked her condition with intent. Other than being grade 1 paragon, she feels similar to her previous self. Normally, awakeners and demigods couldn't surpass the rank of their world. Elizabeth stopped advancing after reaching peak paragon, since Neo was only a paragon. He had a strong suspicion that she would have reached exalted if he had been an exalted. Her eyes fluttered open. "Miss Guardian FA." Her words stopped, and she blinked, staring at Neo. "Neo, what are you doing here?" "No, where am I?" She used his support to stand straight and massaged her brows. A frown was etched on her face as she tried to recall what was happening. "I was fighting a Void Temple's member." And, her eyes widened slightly, and she snapped her head towards Zara. Sensing the powerful void element surrounding her, she grew alert. She stepped forward, hiding Neo behind her back, and prepared to fight Zara. "What are you doing?" Zara asked with a smile despite her injuries. "Who are you?" Elizabeth asked in a cold tone. "And why did you bring Neo here?" Zara blinked, surprised. She could tell most of Elizabeth's anger came from the fact that Neo was in danger. She licked her lips, and smiled. "I brought here to eat him." Elizabeth created a blood spear and fired it at Zara before she could complete her words. Chapter 433 Lacking Growth. "Okay. That's enough jokes," Neo said and stepped forward. Neo used darkness to create a wall and stop Elizabeth's blood spear. She turned to him, surprised. While it wasn't her strongest attack, Neo shouldn't have been able to stop it. "I will explain everything," Neo said. "For now, just know that she, Zara, the Void Dragon God, is our ally." Neo's words were cut short when Elizabeth stepped towards him and held his chin. She looked into his hazy eyes. He was blind. The next second, she pulled up his shirt a bit and saw his scars. "Who did this to you?" She turned and looked at Zara. "Was it you?" Zara smiled and was about to say something, but Neo was faster. "It's a long story. I know you have a lot of questions about what happened after you fought with the Temple of Void. Where are we, why am I like this, and why your rank has fallen," he said. Inwardly, Neo was surprised Elizabeth could use blood and gravity, space. He didn't have those elements. Since Elizabeth was connected to him, she shouldn't be able to use those elements. That's how the connection between worlds and their inhabitants worked. He wondered if the anomaly appeared due to him being a Heavenbreaker or Elizabeth using the Everwitch Violet. Elizabeth's frown didn't disappear. Neo could see the worry in her eyes. He smiled faintly. "It's okay. I'm strong now. You don't need to worry about protecting me anymore." He created a basic house using mimicked earth element. The trio sat on the sofa, and Neo began retelling everything. After you fought the Temple of Void, you became comatose. Around that time, I entered the shadow world and participated in a shadow trial. I fought a void entity there, got these injuries, and became a paragon-level entity. When I returned, I found a method to heal you, but in exchange, I had to come here and help the Sword Saint Cain defeat Tartarus, Neo said. He kept his focus on Zara. She had seen him give a connection to Elizabeth, and now she heard why he was here. Still, Zara showed no reaction. Neo couldn't guess what was going on in her mind. He tried to read her intent, but her mental defenses were up again. I see, Elizabeth replied. What happened with Amelia? She must have blamed you for my injuries. She wasn't that angry, Neo lied with a straight face. He saw no reason to reveal that he was slapped by her. He wasn't embarrassed by the story. Definitely not. She hit you? Elizabeth asked, massaging her brows. Huh, no, nothing like that happened. It's okay. Amelia has a habit of losing her temper. She turned to Zara. Why did you talk like that when we first met? I just wanted to. Elizabeth didn't like Zara's smiling face. She turned back to Neo and stood up. We should start moving. Since we don't know what Tartarus might do, it's better if we hurry in our objective and search for its core. We'll do that tomorrow. For today, you should focus on stabilizing your internal energy. You need to do that as you just broke through. Zara can also use some rest. Okay, if you say so, dear. Elizabeth gave a look to Zara before moving to another room. Neo could tell she was meditating. Was that necessary? He asked her, exasperated slightly. I know you are a god, but your injuries aren't light. It wouldn't do you good if you try to antagonize Elizabeth. I can't help it. She acts like a cutie when she gets jealous. Neo sensed Elizabeth's energy flaring when Zara called her cutie. As a paragon, she was perfectly able to hear them talk despite being in another room. Just stop, Neo said and stood up. He left the house. The area around the place had been devastated due to Zara's fight with the vines and Elizabeth's breakthrough. It was healing already on its own. He opened his system. Quest. Save Elizabeth de Beaufort. Completed reward. Void field spell, tremor rank, level up Crownless King X1. Level up Empathic Transcendence X1. Neo noticed the reward had changed. Before, it would have awakened his nightmare element. But since he did it himself, he gained 50% more express in both traits, which increased his reward from the original 50% to a whole level up. He closed his eyes and sat cross-legged on the ground. Empathic Transcendence, Grade 3, Progress, 100%, Crownless King, Grade 3, Progress, 100%. The rewards allowed him for immediate breakthroughs. The energy within him started to churn. Powerful waves rippled out from his body, and his skin started to turn red from the scorching heat being produced within. His blood turned a slightly darker shade of blue. The world energy within him continued to increase until it reached the peak. Neo felt something crack within him, and the energy exploded outwards. He had to use darkness to protect the house, or his breakthrough would have destroyed it. When everything calmed down, he punched outwards. Space was torn apart, and shockwaves shot forward. Neo was pleasantly surprised. He felt strong. Incredibly strong. Status. Neo Hargraves rank. Half-step ascension, the world. World core rank. NA world energy rank. Stage -1, stats, strength. 33,130 speed. 35,789 dexterity. 31,0092 constitution. 33,464 luck. 0 right pointing arrow 0 affinity death. Shadow. Darkness. Void. Water. Time. Life. Holy. Nightmare, magic spells, incantations, trait, monarch of death, rank. Grade 2 paragon, potential. Death, immortal, eternal, primogenitor, crownless king mind invasion, rank. Grade 2 paragon, potential. Grade 1 empyrean, mind invasion, mind control, empathic bond, empathic transcendence, quest, sacred treasures. Skyfall, Obidus incomplete, Obidus essence. 14,000. My stats were already high after I got benefits from Elizabeth's breakthroughs, but now, with this, I can definitely fight peak grade 1 exalted and win, unless they have a trick up their sleeves. Neo frowned. His stats were insanely high. However, he was lacking in elemental masteries, and he had yet to make Obidus a complete sacred treasure. Most of my enemies would be gods now, so the difference in elemental masteries will become a big problem if I don't do anything about them. Chapter 434 A Witch from Earth. Most of my enemies would be gods now, so the difference in elemental masteries will become a big problem if I don't do anything about them. Stats could be increased with ranks. Demigods would do this, but their elemental masteries were lacking compared to gods, who had stats and elemental masteries. Just because Neo could hit harder than stage 2 gods didn't mean he should ignore his elemental masteries. He wanted to make his foundation as firm as possible, or else it would come back to bite him in the future when he fought even stronger enemies. Are you worried about your elemental masteries? Zera's voice rang from behind. He turned around and noticed her walking towards him. You should rest. Why are you here? It's boring to do nothing. She stood before him. Her injuries had healed somewhat. Her hand had been reattached firmly, and the hole in her stomach was closing slowly. Want my help? She asked. It's okay, Neo replied. He needed to create his own world before he could start pushing his elemental masteries higher. You know from Savon we need the help of the world to increase our masteries. She asked. Tartarus doesn't do that. That's why everyone here is only peak expert unless they came from the outside. That's why I didn't see many gods among the grand expedition, Neo commented. He looked at Zera with a complicated expression. For the inhabitants of Tartarus, they couldn't go beyond expert as the world didn't help them. The people who came from outside were in a similar position. Tartarus cut all communication from outside, and they couldn't receive their world's help to go beyond Savon. This problem was not lethal for Awakeners demigods. They could rank up their traits. But gods needed to increase their elemental masteries to rank up. In other words, Zera had been a stage 3 god when she arrived in this world. Had she been somewhere else, she might have reached higher stages. You don't have that problem, do you? Zera asked him. Quote ellipsis dot question mark quote. You gave a connection to Elizabeth. That's something only a world can do. She stepped closer, looking at him with a mischievous smile. Suddenly, the world around them warped. Shit. This is a sanctuary. Neo became alert. Each sanctuary was unique and was a subdimension of its own. In other words, Zera had just kidnapped him. Are you thinking of fighting? No, it's nothing like that, she said. I deployed the sanctuary to make sure Tartarus couldn't hear us. Neo nodded. The world could hear them since they were near its core. Nonetheless, he didn't drop his guard. Why did you pull me here? You are a world's avatar, right? Quote ellipsis dot question mark quote. Don't act oblivious. Worlds can manifest a body and put their consciousness inside it. That's how most worlds interact with their inhabitants. Neo frowned. She didn't know about Heavenbreakers. Or maybe she knew, but meeting a Heavenbreaker was so rare that she believed Neo was an avatar as it was more plausible. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. What's that got to do with you deploying your sanctuary? You don't need to act. You being a world's avatar explains how you didn't realize Tartarus wasn't allowing us to absorb its energy. Because you had your own power source, and you never bothered to absorb Tartarus' energy. As I asked before, why does that matter? Zera stared at Neo silently. Despite her carefree smile, he could tell countless thoughts were moving inside her head. She was planning something. The fact that she didn't react upon seeing Elizabeth, the twin sister of Julie, didn't bode well either. He would have escaped with Elizabeth long ago. But he hadn't sensed even a bit of malicious intent from Zera. I just wanted to know why people from other worlds came here and wanted to take down Tartarus. It makes sense if your goal is to devour Tartarus and increase your strength. What? Neo was stunned when he heard worlds could be devoured to grow stronger. In hindsight, it made sense. He had not thought about it as it was too outlandish of a theory to even come up with. The most he could have thought of was devouring sacred treasures. If you are a world, you can increase your elemental masteries yourself. I'll help you with that. Quote ellipsis dot question mark quote. Zera spread her hands as if showing him the world around her. A world's support will help us a lot against Tartarus. You must be quite a weak world if your masteries aren't supreme, let alone beyond it, but that can change with a little bit of training. Neo remained quiet. He knew how to increase his masteries. But the Savon rank and supreme rank were still confusing for him. If a stage 3 god like Zera explained about those ranks, he would have an easier time comprehending it. Let's start right now. We don't have time to waste, Zera said. She raised 5 fingers. The masteries most people know are apprentice, adept, expert, savant, supreme. If you go beyond supreme, you become the god of that element. Now, my question. What do you think makes gods different from awakeners? She questioned. Their world. He guessed. Correct. Each god has a world that is created with their understanding of their element. Simply put, We, the gods, copy the actual worlds and try to create our world using our elements. To do that, we need to reach supreme mastery first. She curled her fingers and kept only one finger up. Apprentice mastery and adept mastery are collectively responsible for comprehension. Awakeners at those masteries increase their understanding of the elements and learn how they work. Then, she raised another finger. Expert mastery is where you apply your own interpretation to the element. A water that drowns, a fire that lights the way. These are concepts one can learn. By applying your personal interpretation of the element to the knowledge of the element you've learned, you create concepts. This is why expert mastery stage is called interpretation. Lastly, she raised her third finger. Savant mastery and supreme mastery are the stage of implementation. Those at these masteries learn to manifest their interpretation and form a world with it. The worlds help you at these stages. Think of it as the world giving you training wheels to help you learn to ride a bicycle, she said. Neo noticed something in her words. Training wheels. You know what they are. Zara stared at him as if wondering why he was asking such an obvious question. It took her a moment to realize she had forgotten something important to tell Neo. I'm from Earth too. You, what? Neo had a weird expression on his face. Maybe he was thinking too much, but why was everyone from Earth a heavenly genius? No matter when Zara was born, she couldn't be older than 3,000 years. She reached stage 3 in those few years. It was fast, considering most awakeners on Earth had no one to guide them, which slowed their progress as they had to learn everything by themselves. I think you are misunderstanding something, Neo. I'm OL. Long lived, she said, correcting her words just as she was about to call herself old. I'm a witch. I've been reincarnating since long before the apocalypse came to Earth, and I had powers since as long as I can remember. This is why I reached stage 3 in my current life so quickly. Chapter 435 Truth of God Titan War. A witch? Neo asked. He noticed another important fact in her words. Zara said she had powers before Apocalypse came to Earth, and the way she spoke made it clear that it was common to all witches. What are witches? I don't know, Zara said. All I know is that we were the only ones with powers until the apocalypse arrived, and that we can't die. So the Grim Reapers let you reincarnate as many times as you want. No, we don't go to the underworld after death. Witches vanish upon death. Their body, soul, and seed of existence are erased. And we later reincarnate. Neo found it hard to believe that they could reincarnate after having the seed of existence destroyed. But he had seen Elizabeth revive from the same. Before you ask how we are born, and who we are, I don't know. I just know I'm a witch, and that's the knowledge I found from some ancient books. I have met only one witch in my life, King Morgan, and when I tried to meet her, she blasted me off, saying I should go somewhere else, and she would kill me if I came to meet her. Again, Zara explained. King Morgan? Neo asked while keeping his tone even. Zara wouldn't know he had met King Morgan, and he didn't want to reveal that unless he was sure Zara was an ally. Yes, she was hard-headed. Not that I don't understand why she attacked me, Zara said. It was Neo's first time seeing Zara irritated. Recalling the past didn't bring much joy to Zara. Back then, she was happy. She had finally found a fellow witch. Someone who could use powers and had lived a long life. Finally, Zara wouldn't be alone. But King Morgan nearly pierced her heart with a sword when the two had met. Neo was getting more confused by the second. The King Morgan he remembered was cute and lazy. She was ruthless but only to her enemies. Zara seemed to have done nothing to make King Morgan her enemy. And why didn't Neo know about Zara meeting King Morgan? King Morgan used to share all details of her life with him. The only reason he could think of was King Morgan purposely hid her meeting with Zara, or Zara was lying. We witches have several unique traits, Zara explained. Immortality is one of our traits, and so is our twisted love. Most witches are extremely possessive of their lovers. Some imprison their lovers to make sure they don't look at others. The books I read said a witch once controlled her husband's mind and made sure he could think of only her. There was another who fell in love with a child. My point is witches are possessive of their love. I think King Morgan had someone like that too, which was why she attacked me. She must have been worried I might come to love her lover, which I think had happened multiple times in the past. Two witches loving a single person and creating a bloodbath. Neo had a weird expression on his face. So King Morgan was a witch, he thought. But I don't think she was possessive of me. In fact, she acted pretty normally. I can see that you think witches are not possessive, Zara said, noticing Neo's expression. Well, I'm not possessive either, so I think you are right, but. She stopped speaking and contemplated if she should continue. Finally, she sighed and explained. This was what the book had said. The most dangerous witch is the one who isn't possessive of her love, for that is impossible. Such a witch is cunning. She makes sure her love can't see her twisted desires, and she shows only a sweet, lovable side to him. You just said you aren't possessive though, and you are a witch. Doesn't that prove the book was wrong? Neo pointed out. Maybe it was wrong, but maybe it is me who hasn't found her true love, and that's why I think I'm not possessive. Zara said as if questioning herself, and added, I once created a clone of myself and made it become the goddess of love to see if she would show possessive desires. The results were mixed. Okay, wait, Neo raised his hand to stop her. Goddess of love on earth, you mean? That's Aphrodite. Your clone was Aphrodite. Yes. Why do you look so surprised? It's not big news compared to me being a witch. Neo never knew he could feel confused about how he should react. Void god, dragon, clan leader in Tartarus, Aphrodite, witch. Zara's roster of identities was impressive. I guess you end up doing a lot of things that make you famous when you live long enough, he thought. After answering Neo, Zara was preparing to start training him when Neo asked one last question. What happened during the God-Titan War? Why did it happen? The war. I am not sure. I was long gone from Earth before there were any signs of war. My clone was here, but I didn't get the chance to get all of the information from it before it was destroyed. Zara pondered and added, the God-Titan War never happened, from what I know. Quote ellipsis dot question mark quote. The war did happen, but it wasn't between Titans and gods. They were on the same side. Who were they fighting? Zeus. Zara answered. He killed everyone. Both gods and Titans, and left Earth. I don't know why he did that though. Neo had a hard time believing Zara. While she seemed to be speaking the truth, Zeus wasn't someone who would attack and kill his own allies. Not without reason. I need to read her mind when her mental defenses are down and see if she is lying or saying the truth, he thought. Now, let's start your training. Deploy your true domains, Zara told him. It's fine. Neo shook his head. I only needed the explanations about the Savant and Supreme Mastery. I can train them myself after this. Just do as I said. I told you. Neo's words got stuck in his throat when he felt an unfathomable pressure crash on him. The void sanctuary around him began to converge on him. Void elementals invaded his body. His skin and muscles started to mutate. Neo flared his world energy and covered his body with it. It slowed the corruption, but Zara flicked her wrist and increased her sanctuary's output. He grunted, feeling his flesh twist. Neo, fight seriously. Fine. Neo started to suffuse his world energy into the surroundings. Unlike before, where he converted the energy into elemental energy inside the core, he transferred the energy into elemental energy outside his body. Death, time, and darkness elementals started to appear around him. They bolstered his attack and defense. He didn't stop just there and suffused his concepts into the elementals around him. Zara, seeing he was prepared, attacked. Her body blurred, and she appeared just before him. The spear in her hands shot towards his shoulder. Neo took a step back and commanded darkness. He used it to devour the force behind Zara's attack. Her eyes widened slightly, surprised to see he could devour phenomena like force. A small but condensed red bolt sparked in the air and hit her wrist. She felt her hand becoming paralyzed. There was no feeling in the area where the bolt of red lightning had hit. Good, you can use your true domains to increase the power of your concepts. We can start training seriously. Quote ellipsis question mark quote. Neo had no time to question her. Zara let go of her spear, and her hand transformed into a giant mass of flesh. The force of the punch hit him like a truck, and he flew back. He used darkness to devour the momentum throwing him. His body came to a halt and was about to land when void elementals started to corrupt his darkness. Neo frowned. Elemental clash occurred between his darkness elementals and Zara's void elementals. He could devour, and she could corrupt. Her high mastery corrupted his darkness, and the darkness elementals began to turn into infinitely small white holes. Crap. Neo had barely any time to move before the void elementals pushed the white holes towards Neo. They shot through his body without hindrance, leaving him looking like Swiss cheese. Zara used the opportunity, and her attacks rained before Neo could heal himself. Void elementals surged into the surroundings and invaded his body through the holes in him. His organs and bones started to mutate, transforming into a deformed mass of flesh. Neo grunted and tried to use his death elementals to put the void elementals to sleep. He used it together with darkness, but it seemed to have no effect. With no other choice, he called upon his true domain of time that he had deployed before. Null Hour. A wave rippled around Neo. Null Hour was the full extent of Neo's manifestation of time. Beelzebub could slowly devour time. Null Hour could do the same, but it could do it instantly. Zara was surprised when her void
elementals disappeared. What was that? She asked. Your attacks were erased from the timeline. She blinked, taking a moment to understand what he said. Her mouth opened and closed several times. Her shocked expression led to a sigh, and she eventually chuckled. What kind of life have you lived to awaken a concept of time like that? Nothing too special. Zara laughed heartily upon hearing his answer. A glint appeared in her eyes, and she cranked her sanctuary to another level. The void elementals started to appear in infinite numbers around Neo. No matter how many he erased, more took their place.